Welcome to the Tired Thinker, where wonder lingers in the quiet gaps between decisions, and curiosity tiptoes towards the question of whether we ever truly choose. Tonight's mystery belongs to the mind itself, to decisions so subtle, so tangled, so inevitable. The paradox of choice, the illusion of free will, the hidden currents beneath every yes and no. Each asks, when the mind believes it's steering, is it simply following a script? If every thought is shaped by neurons and memories, what happens to freedom? That bright spark we swear we feel. If the brain decides before awareness catches up, does choice exist, or does it only pretend to? These aren't questions to rush through, but contradictions to sit inside, to listen for the quiet debate in synapses, to feel the strange beauty of uncertainty whisper, you could choose differently, or maybe you never could at all. So tonight, we'll trace the narrow passage between fate and freedom. No panic, just the gentle curiosity of minds reflecting on themselves in real time. Before we begin, where are you choosing to listen from? What hour ticks by in your small, flickering corner of possibility? If these wanderings of thought take root in you, I'd be grateful if you liked or subscribed, so more curious minds might drift with us into the labyrinth of decision. Now, let's begin. We like to believe that every choice pushes us forward on a single path, one life, one future, one version of you walking toward one outcome. But decisions do not feel so simple when you are inside them. You stand at a crossroads and picture two roads, then three, then more. Each one looks like a different life waiting on the other side of a single yes or no. Each path seems to hold a you that could exist, ready to take your place the moment you decide. Imagine you hold a job offer that asks you to move to another city. You picture yourself packing boxes, meeting new people, trying new food, and sleeping in a small apartment with unfamiliar sounds. You picture yourself staying where you are. You keep the same street, the same grocery store, the same friends. Both images feel real. You can see them. You know the version of you in that new city would feel different things, think different things, and even act like a different person. The version who stays would become someone else too. It can feel like the instant you choose, one entire life disappears. This idea shows up in physics, in the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. When a particle moves one way or another, the theory suggests the universe splits. Every outcome happens. Nothing gets thrown away. If that same idea applied to choices in a human life, then every decision would create two timelines. One where you stayed, one where you left, both real, both true. The version of you who goes becomes as full and alive as the version of you who remains. It can sound strange, yet the mind already plays with this possibility. Every time you think about what you could do, you picture a self who might exist. You meet these possible selves again in dreams or regrets or daydreams. But there is a clash here. Real life does not feel like branching universes. You never open a door and see two separate worlds waiting. You see one. You step into it. The idea that the other you still exists cannot be proven. So we are left with a quieter, more ordinary kind of branching. The branching inside. When you think about turning left instead of right, you create a vision. It is not a universe, but it is a possibility strong enough to feel real. That version becomes a small ghost in your mind. It watches while you choose someone else. Take a student trying to pick a major. Biology or art, both paths feel right, but each shapes a different future. The student imagines long nights in a lab. They also imagine sketchbooks and paint under their nails. Whichever they choose, they may look back at the other life. They may wonder what happened to the self who took the other path. Did that self become happier, more tired, more alive? These questions do not fade. They wait at the edge of the mind. They rise again when things feel slow or wrong. Choice creates identity. Every time you decide, you say, "This is who I am." But what happens to the other selves? The ones who would say, "No, this is who I am." You carry them. They stay with you as maybes and might have beens. A person who chose to become a parent might picture the version who did not. A musician who put down the guitar to work in an office might feel the fingers of the other version twitching to play again. Even if only one future becomes real, the others leave footprints in memory. Neuroscience gives us one more twist. The brain often makes decisions before you become aware of them. Activity in the brain picks a path up to a second before you feel like you choose. The conscious mind then takes credit. I decided. But much of the push came from hidden processes that do not ask for your permission. If that is true, the split between paths may happen beneath your awareness. You tell yourself a story afterward. You make it feel like your will steered the ship, but the ship was already turning. Still, a person feels the weight of choice. You pause. You look both ways. You debate with yourself. You hope for a sign. You call a friend. In those moments, the possible futures feel like they stand close, waiting. The you who makes the bold move paces on one side. The cautious you waits on the other. They do not yet know which one will step through and become the real one. The moment of decision can feel like a flicker in time, a tiny hinge that swings open a wide door. A nurse faces a transfer to a busier hospital. Better pay, more stress. They imagine the version of themselves who can handle the chaos and save more patients. They imagine the version who stays where the pace is human, who goes home without shaking hands. In that moment, both versions are true. Both feel like real futures. They are not theoretical. They sit right there in the heart and demand attention. Sometimes the version you do not choose still shapes you. You say no to the new job, yet you work harder at the old one because you want to prove you made the right call. You stay in a relationship and try to fix the parts that made you imagine leaving. The ghost of the other choice stands behind you, nudging, reminding, judging. We often ask which version of a person survives a decision. But maybe survival is the wrong word. Maybe the other versions do not vanish. They become silent influences. They become private teachers. They remind you that choices are not clean cuts. They are seams stitched through time. The thread holds even the unseen fabric in place. Every choice narrows the visible world, but every unchosen path remains inside you. That collection of versions, lived and unlived, becomes the larger self, the one you do not meet all at once, the one built from every flicker in the mind where the arrow could have flown another way. You feel like you choose where your life goes. You feel like the moment of decision happens when you think, "I will do this." It feels like the mind waits for you. It waits for your command. Yet the brain works on a different timeline. It does not wait. It moves first. By the time you notice a decision, the brain has already started it. Scientists looked into this with simple tasks. A person sits in front of a button. They watch a clock tick in a circle. They get a clear instruction: press the button whenever you feel like it. No count, no signal, just choose the moment. The person reports when they decided to act, but the brain scan shows activity before that report. A pattern in the motor cortex lights up several hundred milliseconds first. The body gets ready. The brain commits to action. The person believes they choose, but they find out late. The you who notices choices is not the you who starts them. This discovery does not stay in the lab. It shapes daily life. Walk through a grocery store. Reach for a box of cereal. You may think you reached by a free choice, but your brain noticed the color on the shelf. It recognized a memory from years ago. It measured hunger. It reacted to a sale tag. By the time you think, "I want this one," your fingers are already around the box. The brain has moved. You arrive after the fact. Imagine you scroll through a streaming app. You hover over a movie. You feel like you take time to weigh the choice, but your eyes paused on a familiar actor, or you saw a preview clip days earlier. The brain nudged you then. The final click only confirms the path already taken inside. This does not mean you lack a role. You notice, you reflect, you react. But noticing is not the same as choosing first. Reflection is not steering from the start. The mind works like a large river. You may guide a paddle, but the current carries you long before you know where the water wants to go. Take a person at a crossroads in life. A new relationship invites hope. A career move promises growth. They think they weigh the pros and cons. They list reasons. They hold long talks with friends. Yet beneath the talking, the brain leans one way. It builds preference before the first list appears on the page. The feeling in the gut is not random. The brain already did the math without words. The pros are only explanations that follow. A driver sees a light change from green to yellow. In a blink, they hit the brakes. They say they thought it through, but the body reacted. The brain saw the risk and signaled the legs. The story about caution comes later. You can picture the brain as a silent teammate. It runs ahead. It scans the world. It predicts what keeps you alive and less stressed. It sends signals into motion. It expects you to trust the motion. Think of the last time you said, "I knew it," after a decision. Someone made you feel uneasy. You did not like the deal offered. You could not explain why. Later, evidence showed up. You were right. The brain noted something early, a facial hint, a tone of voice, a mismatch in the story. You picked up the clue, but only as a feeling. The clear thought came later. We learn that the sense of free will feels strong, but that does not make it the first step in choice. The choice begins in parts of the brain that do not speak. These parts work with habit, reward, and memory. You know these forces well. You check your phone without thinking. You lock the front door on the way out and cannot recall doing it. You eat the same breakfast every day without a debate. The brain saves energy. It acts. Picture a scene in a cafe. A person stands in line and must choose a drink. They pick the same latte they always get. They do not test new ideas. They feel like they made a choice, but the pattern solved the moment before they scan the menu. The brain nudged them toward what feels safe. They do not argue, they follow. These nudges do not always protect. A person sees a box of donuts at work. They reach for one. They remember a goal to eat healthier. They set the donut down. They walk away frustrated. The brain offered a fast reward. The conscious mind arrived late to stop it. They feel like they fought themselves. In a way, they did. 2 layers of decision-making. One fast, one slow. One hidden, one aware. You may wonder if these signals remove responsibility. If the brain picks first, then why blame the self? Yet awareness can still change the script. When the slower, conscious part sees the nudge, it can push back. It can pause. It can reshape habits. It can give a new pattern for the brain to follow next time. A person with a fear of public speaking may run when asked to present, but over time, they can learn new reactions. The invisible nudge becomes a softer pull. Think about someone learning to drive. At first, every turn needs thought. Every lane change feels like a task. But months later, the brain drives the car. The person listens to music. They reach their destination and barely remember the road. The brain learned the steps so the attention can rest. Skill creates automatic action. This shows how the brain handles many choices without asking. It helps us survive. It keeps us moving. Yet sometimes the brain nudges toward fear when safety holds. A loud noise in a quiet room. A sharp tone in a loved one's voice. The brain prepares for danger fast. You feel a startle. You realize a second later there was no threat. The reaction shows how the brain works ahead of reason. It protects the body first. It checks facts later. If the brain moves first, where does that leave the idea of choice? It leaves choice in the space after the first signal, in the slow breath. In the moment you ask yourself why, you see the nudge, you accept it. or you change direction. The brain may choose before you arrive, but you decide whether to stay on the path it starts. The hidden processes in the mind want to reduce pain and seek comfort. They want to keep you alive. They built their rules from years of learning. They run like a quiet engine beneath the surface. When you act, you feel in charge, yet the engine fired up long before the thought formed. You do not lose control when you learn this. Instead, you notice the gap between impulse and awareness. In that space, the self becomes visible. You picture choices like paths in a forest. You walk to a fork in the trail. You pause. You look left. You look right. You think both directions are open to you. You believe you can pick either one. This is the common picture of free will. You feel like the world waits for your decision. Yet, the mind may not work that way. The moment you arrive at the fork in thought, your brain may already know which path you will take. The options feel real, but they may only be reflections of one outcome that already has momentum. Think of ordering food at a restaurant. A server hands you a menu with 20 dishes. It looks like you have many choices, but if you look closer at yourself, you notice you do not like spicy food. You avoid meals that cost too much. You want something filling but not heavy. You ate pasta yesterday. You feel tired and want comfort. These limits narrow the list before you read a single line. You do not explore the options that stand outside those limits. You skim until your brain sees something that matches your needs and memory. You call that a choice, but the real shaping happened earlier. The fork in the mind did not point to 20 roads. It pointed to 1 or 2. The others were only shadows. A shopper stands in a store with 10 shirts in front of them. They look at colors and sizes. They go back and forth. The options seem to compete, but the shopper's brain looks for a match with identity. I don't wear bright orange. One shirt disappears. This fabric feels scratchy. Another one disappears. Soon, only one feels right. The brain made its selection through elimination. The feeling of choice comes as a late stage of sorting. You face the same pattern with life decisions. A student tries to pick a career. They imagine the world is open. They could be a chef, a doctor, a pilot, a teacher, or a musician. But the student has allergies that would make food work hard. They feel faint at the sight of blood. They dislike flying. They love art, but fear unstable income. What remains? The mind never saw a dozen real paths. It saw only the ones that fit the student's history and temperament. The fork looked wide, but the narrowed shape lived in the student long before the question arrived. Even when you think you weigh options, the scale is not neutral. Your values, fears, memories, and habits tilt the scale before the thought reaches awareness. You do not see that tilt, so you assume the choice stands in your hands alone. Yet the fork formed out of a lifetime of past decisions and even older patterns shaped by DNA and early experience. You respond to the present, but the present responds to the past. Picture someone in a long relationship. They feel unhappy and think about leaving. The fork looks clear: stay or go. But one path holds shared rent, shared routines, and shared history. The other holds uncertainty. Fear pushes them to stay. Comfort pushes them to stay. Love pushes them to stay. Those forces shape the outcome almost before the question forms. They may debate. They may talk with friends. They may list reasons on paper, but the deeper forces lead the way. The person thinks they chose. In truth, the conditions shaped the result. The mind presents choices most strongly when the outcome looks unclear. But unclear does not always mean open. Think of a coin toss, heads or tails. It looks 50-50, but if one side carries more emotional weight, doubt changes the game. A child flips a coin to decide whether to run away after a fight at home. If it shows heads, they leave. If tails, they stay. The coin lands heads. They flip again. They want a different answer. The hidden preference shows itself. The fork was not balanced. It only looked that way. Sometimes the mind offers options to make you feel in control. You think, I could quit my job tomorrow. That thought gives relief. But you do not quit tomorrow. You do not even schedule a review with your boss. The option sits like a decoration. It helps you cope, but it has no true opening. The future has no reason to change course until something in you changes first. A person with a fear of swimming stands near a pool. They want to dive in. They picture themselves doing it. They tell others they will, but the fear holds the body still. The body chooses. The fork in the mind is not a real fork. It is a picture of a fork, a possible path with no fuel behind it. Even in the smallest acts, inevitability hides in plain sight. A woman steps outside in the morning. Cold air touches her skin. She pulls her coat tighter. That response did not feel like a choice. It happened before she noticed the cold. Many acts follow this pattern. You scratch an itch. You turn your head toward a sound. You avoid stepping on a crack. You act first. You think later. Yet the experience of choice is real. You feel it. You live it. That feeling matters. It shapes the story you tell yourself about who you are. It gives meaning to decisions. You believe you pick your friends, your style, your goals. You believe you take responsibility for the path you walk. That belief keeps you trying. Still, when you look closer, the fork in the mind may not be the moment where life splits into different futures. It may be the moment when you discover what was already forming inside you. The options that fade were never solid. The option that remains feels right not because you force it, but because everything in you points that way. The mind shows you many roads, but most are drawings in chalk. Only one has pavement under your feet. Every person has a story about who they are. In that story, they guide their life. They choose their friends, their beliefs, their routines. They steer through trouble and celebrate success as if they hold the wheel. This story feels true. It gives strength. It builds dignity. Yet beneath the surface, the brain works with its own rules. It responds to patterns, rewards, and instincts before the conscious mind speaks. The idea that we always control our actions may be more comfort than fact. Picture a crowded crosswalk. The light turns green. People step forward together. No one plans to follow the group, yet almost everyone moves at the same pace. The brain tracks movement and avoids conflict. The feet move as if on a rail. You feel like you decided to step, but the behavior happened inside a social system built over thousands of years. The group nudged you. You followed. The puppet believes it took a step by choice. Consider a parent raising a child. The parent says they want their child to be honest and strong. Those values sound chosen, but the parent learned them from their own home or culture. They repeat the same rules they once followed. They try to shape their child, yet inherited hands pull their strings. The belief that they are the one shaping the rules gives pride. Without that belief, they might feel lost. Look at consumer behavior. You walk into a store and see a sign that says limited time. You feel pressure to buy. You tell yourself that you acted because you liked the product. You do not think about the design of the sign or the color of the packaging. Marketing experts do. They study those triggers and place them in your path. You feel like the chooser, not the chosen. Humans like to believe they understand their motives, but research in psychology shows something else. The mind makes a decision and the voice in your head explains it afterward. Think of someone who picks a book because the cover appealed to them. If asked why, they might talk about the plot or the author. The true cause stays hidden. The explanation keeps the person feeling in control. The brain protects the ego by giving reasons that sound thoughtful. Habit is another quiet puppeteer. You tie your shoes the same way every day without thought. You check your phone many times a day, even when no new message waits. You sit in the same seat in your living room. These actions shape large parts of life. You do them not because you choose them each time, but because the brain learned a pattern that saves energy. You feel independent while the brain conserves effort. A worker at an office logs on each morning, drinks the same coffee, and sends the same kinds of emails. They may feel trapped, they may feel bored, yet they continue. The job gives structure and identity. Walking away would create fear, so they stay. They tell themselves they choose loyalty or comfort. Stability pulls the string and the story covers the pull. Look at the role of emotion. A friend says something rude. Before thinking, you snap back. The reaction comes from a deep part of the brain built to defend status and protect against threats. Only later do you think about what happened. You might explain your response, but the decision came from emotion first. The puppet reacts. The storyteller takes credit. Advertising, tradition, memory, and fear all push from hidden angles. Many decisions follow the same script written long before the moment arrives. You pick foods that remind you of childhood. You vote like the people around you. You support ideas that match your group. You act first for safety, belonging, or habit. Then you explain those actions as choices. Even personality traits can steer the path. A cautious person checks every detail. A bold person jumps before they look. These traits grow from genetics and early life. They shape what feels right long before a decision appears. The puppet feels brave or careful. The puppet does not feel controlled. Sometimes the illusion of control protects mental health. A patient with a diagnosis hears they will face a long recovery. If they believe their actions matter, they fight harder. If they believe everything is predetermined, they may give up. The belief that I steer this carries hope. The puppet needs that belief to keep moving. Imagine someone trying to break a habit like smoking. The brain urges the body to reach for a cigarette because nicotine shaped reward pathways. The person resists with willpower. They feel like they fight themselves. They may say, I control my choices. That claim helps them push back against the pull. Without that belief, change might never happen. In relationships, people often think they pick partners through careful thought. Yet attraction comes fast, built from cues like scent, voice, and body language. These cues connect to instinct. The sense of I chose this person keeps the bond strong. If love felt like chemistry alone, some might pull away when the chemistry falters. The illusion protects the connection. Look at moral actions. A person donates to charity and feels proud. They believe they chose kindness, but empathy and guilt play strong roles. The reward system in the brain lights up when they help. They feel good, so they repeat the action. The story of goodness keeps them acting well. The brain uses pleasure to train behavior while the self takes credit. Even language reveals the illusion. When someone makes a mistake, they might say, I don't know what came over me. In that moment, the puppet sees the strings. A force inside acted without permission. But most of the time, the story of control stays firm. It must stay firm. Without it, the world feels unsafe. The brain shields us from chaos. It lets us believe we are the one pulling the strings, even when the strings pull us. This belief holds identity together. It keeps responsibility alive. It builds meaning from action. It allows people to look at their life and say, I made this. People say that more options mean more freedom. They picture a wide field with endless ways to walk. You can go anywhere. You can become anything. You can shape your life without limits. But when choices expand too far, the field does not feel wide. It feels like a maze. Every step raises a new question. Every decision brings doubt. When everything is possible, nothing feels secure. Walk into a large grocery store. You stand in front of a shelf with dozens of brands of cereal. Each box looks good. Each one promises flavor and health. You pick one up, then another. You compare sugar counts and prices. You put a box in your cart, then swat it out when you see a new one. The moment you check out, you wonder if you picked the right one. The next morning, when you pour your bowl, a small thought whispers, maybe the other one was better. You have the freedom to choose any cereal, yet the choice gives you stress. Imagine a teenager planning their future in a culture that tells them they can be anything if they work hard. The statement tries to inspire, yet the weight of anything is heavy. The teen explores careers in medicine, engineering, art, business, and more. Each path asks for years of training. Each one closes other doors. They fear picking the wrong one. They worry what others will think. The freedom that once felt big now feels like a trap built from expectations. The same pattern appears in relationships. Dating apps show endless profiles. You swipe and see hundreds of faces. Each person could be a partner. You go on dates, you talk, you laugh. Yet as soon as you feel a spark, your mind thinks, what if someone better is a swipe away? The abundance of options makes commitment harder. You want to choose well, but the freedom makes every choice feel risky. You fear settling, so you do not settle. You wait and wait while the list grows longer and more confusing. Some people feel this weight when picking a place to live. Cities offer jobs and culture. Small towns offer quiet and space. The decision shapes everything about daily life. You scroll through listings online. You calculate costs. You imagine futures. The more you imagine, the more you fear choosing wrong. Even after a move, you wonder how life would have looked elsewhere. The other options haunt you. Psychologists call this problem choice overload. When options increase, satisfaction often decreases. You think more options give a better chance of making the perfect choice, but instead, they make you feel like you failed to find it. You replay decisions in your mind. You search for signs you missed. You feel regret even when the outcome is okay. Consider a person picking a show to watch in the evening. A streaming service offers thousands of titles. They scroll for 20 minutes and feel tired. They pick something familiar because it feels safe. The wide ocean of choice pushed them into a small pool. They did not explore because exploring drained their energy. Some choices even lose their joy when they feel like tasks. A traveler planning a vacation faces endless destinations online. Each search shows tropical beaches, mountains, cities, and museums. Reviews rank and score everything. The traveler wants to optimize the trip. They want the best views, the best food, and the best weather for the lowest cost. The planning becomes work. The freedom to pick anywhere in the world makes the traveler anxious instead of excited. When options become too many, a hidden fear grows, the fear of missing out. You worry that every yes contains 10 silent no's. If you choose one path, the other paths vanish. If you pick one friend group, others drift away. If you choose one hobby, you give less time to another. In the moment of choice, the mind holds both desire and loss. The more options you have, the more loss you see. Even small actions show this trap. Think of someone scrolling through music playlists. They skip songs after a few seconds. The thought that something better could be one tap away makes them impatient. They do not let any song play long enough to enjoy it. They become consumers of possibility, not experience. The trap becomes clearer in identity. You shape who you are through choices. What clothes you wear, what you believe, how you speak. When society allows many options, shaping identity becomes a lifelong project. You change your style, you change your plans, you change your goals. You search for the version of yourself that feels complete. Yet the search never ends because the options never end. Culture also pushes perfection. We hold the idea that with enough choice, Life can be perfect. You can find the perfect career, the perfect partner, the perfect home, and the perfect version of yourself. But perfection moves when you get close to it. You find a good job, then ask, could there be a better one? You meet a good partner, then ask, could I feel more love? The belief that perfection exists keeps you chasing. Limitations can help focus the mind. A painter may choose only 3 colors. The limit sparks creativity. A writer may set a strict deadline. The limit forces action. When everything is open, action feels hard. When a fence surrounds a garden, you know where to plant seeds. When the garden stretches without end, you do not know where to begin. People sometimes find peace in routines. The same breakfast each day removes stress. Wearing a simple uniform removes the question of what looks best. Calling one friend on Fridays removes the need to plan every week. These limits do not reduce life. They free attention. They give the mind room to rest. Infinite choice can sound like freedom, but when every path feels possible, responsibility grows heavier. The mind searches for the best future instead of living in the present. The wider the space, the more the self fears taking the first step. The cage is not outside, it stands inside, built from the belief that you can always choose better than you did. Most people believe time moves in one direction. Events happen, you react, you make a choice, then life moves forward. The cause sits behind you and the effect follows. Yet there are moments that feel different. You look back at a decision and think, of course it happened that way. It feels like the choice could never have gone another direction. The future you now live in reaches backward and shapes the memory of what came before. It makes the past feel like it pointed here all along. Think of someone choosing a college. They fill out applications, compare costs, and wait for acceptance letters. It feels like a stressful time with many possible results. Once they pick a school and settle into campus life, the other options fade. They meet friends, they find a major, their routine becomes normal. When they look back, it feels like this school was always the right one. They say, I knew this was where I belonged. But they did not know. The feeling only formed after they arrived. The future rewrote the past to give the moment meaning. Many people experience this with relationships. You meet someone at a bus stop. You talk. You laugh at the same jokes. You start to date. Later, you might say it was fate or destiny. You point to small signs you missed then. We lived on the same street when we were children. We both liked the same song in high school. You build a story that makes the connection look planned. But the truth is simpler. A chance meeting led to a bond. The bond made the chance look like a plan. Science offers its own version of this idea. In physics, some theories suggest that the future influences the present. Quantum experiments show particles behaving as if they know what will happen. They move in ways that do not make sense if time only flows forward. A measurement taken at the end of an experiment can change how we understand what happened at the start. It looks like the result reaches back in time. Scientists debate how to explain this, but the idea raises a strange question. Does the universe wait to decide the past until the future arrives? The brain behaves in subtle ways that match this pattern. When you make a fast decision, like catching a falling object, your brain acts before conscious thought. You grab the cup. Only afterward do you think, I saved it. The mind then creates a story to explain why you reacted. The action came first. The explanation came second. The brain gives the moment a reason that fits. It rewrites the past to protect the belief that you stay in control. Think of someone who loses a job, but later finds a better one. At the moment of loss, fear takes over. They think the future has collapsed, but once they settle into new work, they look back and say the old job was holding them back. The new future gives the old event purpose. Without the new role, the job loss has no meaning. The future assigns that meaning. It shapes memory to match the new path. Memory itself does not stay fixed. When you recall an event, your brain rebuilds the memory. You link it with what you know today. A child remembers moving to a new home as scary. As an adult, they might remember the same event as exciting. The event did not change, but the future self did. The brain updates the past to keep the story smooth. Picture someone taking a wrong turn while driving. They end up on a scenic road they never planned to take. Later, they might say, "I needed that view. It helped me relax." The mistake becomes part of a bigger plan. The future adds reason to what once felt like confusion. This idea shows up in effort too. A person trains for a marathon. They wake early and run in rain and heat. On race day, they struggle but finish. The hard parts become part of the success. The pain makes sense because the finish line arrived. If they had been forced to stop halfway due to injury, the same pain would feel pointless. The meaning of the past depends on the future's outcome. We can see this in regret. Someone turns down a job to stay close to family. Years later, they may see that as the right move because they formed strong bonds. Or they may see it as a mistake if life around them falls apart. The choice stays the same. The meaning shifts with the future. The future judges the past. It decides whether the fork in the road was wise or foolish. Culture uses this logic often. People say, everything happens for a reason. This belief does not prove the reason existed at the time. It shows that the mind needs the future to make sense of the past. If events felt random, it would be hard to stand up after setbacks. The story that the future decides the past gives courage. It allows people to keep going after failure or heartbreak. It says the meaning will reveal itself later. Even identity grows this way. You look at yourself today and imagine that you were always this kind of person. You think your past choices reflect your true nature, but those choices shaped that nature. Who you became changed how you remember who you were. The line looks straight only because you draw it backward. You can test this idea with a simple memory. Think about a friendship that once felt deep. You shared many important moments. Now the friendship has ended. The past feels different because the future did not keep the bond alive. If the same friend returns one day, the memories may feel warm again. Nothing about those memories changed except where the story led. We often think we push life forward through decisions, but sometimes life pushes backward and rearranges the reasons. The mind works hard to make the path look intentional. It protects a sense of purpose. It says the person you are today defines the truth about how you got here. And once the future becomes clear, it reaches behind you and whispers to the past, "This was always where you were going." Regret comes from a simple idea. Things could have gone another way. We picture a different version of the moment we faced. We replay the scene in our mind. We change our words. We change our posture. We take the job. We say yes. We say no. In this replay, life bends to our will. The version of us who made the right choice feels alive. That version looks back at us and asks why we did not become them. The question stays. It echoes. Think about turning down a chance to move to a new city. At the time, it felt safer to stay. You knew the streets. You knew the people. But years pass. You grow restless. You wonder how your life might have changed. You picture new friends, new skills, and a version of yourself who feels bold. You do not know if that version would be happier, yet the thought holds power. The mind gives the imagined life a glow that the real one sometimes lacks. Regret feeds that glow. We see regret even in simple choices. You order a meal at a restaurant. As soon as the server walks away, you notice a dish on the next table that looks better. You feel a small sting. You imagine yourself enjoying that other dish. That tiny moment shows how regret forms. A path not taken becomes a story of missed pleasure. The mind does not balance satisfaction with the one you chose. It focuses on what is missing. This pattern gets stronger with bigger stakes. A person dates someone for years and then ends the relationship. Later, when they feel lonely, they wonder if they should have stayed. The brain digs up good memories and hides the hard ones. The version of life that never happened becomes clean and warm. It becomes a ghost that whispers, "You walked away from your chance." The mind struggles with uncertainty. When outcomes remain unknown, imagination fills the gap. Regret thrives in that space. We do not regret a choice that ended in disaster if it leaves no room for doubt. If you almost stepped into traffic but pulled back in time, you do not regret stopping. The danger makes the chosen path feel correct. But if a choice leads to a slow fade, like drifting apart from friends, you question everything. Regret loves the slow fade. It rewrites the story with a better ending. Regret grows from comparison. You compare your current life to what another version of you might have. A person who becomes an accountant may imagine life as a musician on a stage. A person who becomes a musician may imagine the steady comfort of office work. Each one sees the perks of the other path more clearly than the flaws. The grass looks greener not because it is better, but because distance hides the dirt. Even small moments invite these echoes. You remember a time you stayed quiet when you wanted to speak. You think, if only I had said something, they would have understood me. But the truth might be different. They might have dismissed your concern. They might have argued. The imagined scene removes risk. It becomes a safe version of bravery. Regret feels like a ghost because it does not belong fully to the past or the present. It hovers. It follows. It asks questions that have no answers. When you try to focus on the life you have, regret knocks and reminds you of the life you did not choose. It does not let those unlived futures rest. Sometimes regret ties itself to identity. You see yourself as someone who should have taken more chances, or someone who should have been more careful. The what if becomes part of how you define yourself. You create a story where you missed the moment that would have shown your true potential. The ghost taps on your shoulder and says, "You could have been more than this." Memory makes this stronger. Memory does not record events like a camera. It rebuilds them each time with new meaning. A failed relationship can feel like a near-perfect love story once loneliness enters the picture. A job you left because you were miserable can feel like a lost opportunity after a new job disappoints you. Memory bends to emotion and creates new reasons to regret. A person may believe they have one true purpose. This belief creates pressure. Every wrong step feels like a step away from destiny. Every delayed decision feels like a door closing. But what if the idea of one perfect path is the trap? Regret becomes louder when you believe perfection was possible. Sometimes regret appears for choices you never had true control over. A child may regret not standing up to a bully, though fear shaped the moment. An adult may regret not saving a family member, though the outcome was never in their hands. The ghost of what if ignores limits. It pretends control existed. It blames the self for not rewriting reality. Yet regret also shows that you care. You wanted something good. You imagined a better outcome. That hope is not a flaw. It reveals your desire to grow. You look back because the future still calls you forward. The ghost only appears when something inside you still wants more life than you have lived. Picture someone who applies for a job but does not get it. They feel regret for trying. They feel regret for hoping. But a year later, they earn a different job. Now the old regret looks unnecessary. The ghost of that path fades. The new future rewrites what the past meant. Regret teaches quiet lessons. It shows values through discomfort. If you regret not saying "I love you," it means connection matters to you. If you regret not trying for a dream, it means the dream still has weight. The ghost does not just haunt, it points. It flickers in the direction you still long to go. We all walk through life listening to these echoes. They remind us of the many universes inside us. For each one we live, countless others drift beside us, waiting in the dark, whispering, "What if?" You believe you know why you choose one thing over another. You point to reasons that feel solid. You say you picked the partner you love because you connected. You say you took the job because it matched your skills. You say you ordered the meal because you wanted that taste. These explanations reassure you that you steer your own decisions. Yet inside the brain, neurons fire, chemicals shift, and signals race before you form a clear thought. Much of what feels like conviction may begin as chance. Picture someone walking into a bookstore. They want a new novel. They scan the shelves. They pick one because the title catches their eye. They flip it open and like the first sentence. They buy it and later call that choice a good instinct. But simple factors shape the moment: the book's color, its placement at eye level, the lighting in the store, and even the person's mood from earlier that day. These factors mix inside the brain. A neuron fires here, a memory stirs there, and a decision forms. The person believes they acted with purpose. The brain handled a complex gamble. Small things change decisions in large ways. A person who slept well feels bold. A person who slept poorly feels cautious. The same risk can look safe one day and dangerous the next. You can feel steady about a choice that would scare you tomorrow morning. Your conviction does not always come from a clear formula. It often comes from how the brain happened to fire at the time. Think about taste. Many people believe they have strong preferences. They say they dislike certain foods. But research shows that these feelings change based on scent, temperature, presentation, and even what music plays nearby. The brain guesses at what will bring pleasure. Those guesses form habits. Those habits feel like solid preferences. But if the environment changes, the roulette wheel of neurons spins again and lands on a different number. You feel like you made a new choice with clear intent when the shift came from signals you did not control. Chance plays a role in friendships too. You become close with people you happen to see often. You sit next to the same classmate each day. You work the same shift as a coworker. You talk because proximity allows it. Over time, you feel you chose that friendship. But the meeting was luck. The bond grew out of routine. You turned chance into meaning. Emotion acts like a loaded die in the brain. When fear hits, you pull away from opportunities you might have taken. When excitement hits, you jump without thinking things through. A person buys a car on a good day and regrets it after a bad week. They explain the purchase as confidence. Later, they explain the regret as sudden wisdom. Both stories try to make sense of unpredictable brain chemistry. Even moral choices show this roulette effect. Someone drops a wallet in front of you. If you pick it up and return it quickly, you tell yourself that you value honesty. But if you hesitate, even for a moment, your brain runs through risks and rewards. How much money might be inside? Will the person thank you or ignore you? Those flashes of calculation affect the behavior. The final action becomes part of your identity, yet it formed under conditions you did not design. Neuroscience shows that randomness helps the brain explore. When you try something new, part of the decision comes from curiosity, but another part comes from noise in the neural system. The same noise can lead you to stick with the familiar. This randomness keeps you from getting stuck in patterns. It also makes it hard to know why you did what you did. The story you tell afterward smooths out the rough edges. Imagine a person choosing names for a baby. They test dozens of options. They reject many for reasons that sound logical. Too old-fashioned, too trendy, too hard to spell. But ask them why one finally feels right. They may say it just does. That feeling comes from sound, memory, and association. Maybe someone they admired had a similar name. Maybe they saw the name in a show they liked years ago. These influences drift up from the past and shape conviction. They feel like certainty because the brain turned noise into a signal. Consider the urge to quit a job. You tell yourself you have thought through every detail, but stress and fatigue shift brain chemistry. One afternoon, a comment from a manager feels like the last straw. The final push looks like intention, but the timing is chance. If that comment happened on a different day, you might shrug it off and stay another year. Many people believe they pick their beliefs through careful thought. But what you accept as true often depends on who you trust, what your peer group believes, and what you heard first. The brain uses shortcuts. Familiar ideas feel safe. New ideas feel risky. You defend what you already believe because the brain prefers consistency. Conviction grows from repetition, not only from proof. You act as though decisions come from a strong inner core. You do not feel the roulette wheel spinning. You feel the winning number appear. You do not see the background noise. You see the choice made. You tell yourself a clear story. You think, I wanted this. I chose this. This makes sense. That belief is comforting. It helps you move forward without overthinking. It protects you from feeling lost. The truth is not that chance rules everything. The brain uses chance to help you learn and adapt. It tries out ideas. It reacts fast. It fills gaps where information is incomplete. Over time, patterns form. You build confidence. Choices start to feel like they come from a stable self. You do not see the experiments happening inside. You see the results. When you look at your own life, you may feel guided by purpose. You see a story. You sense direction. But deep inside your mind, tiny sparks jump between neurons. They roll like dice. They test possible futures before you notice. Then they hand you a decision dressed in conviction. Tell someone not to touch a button, and they will think about that button more than anything else in the room. The order plants the seed. The mind starts to wonder why it should stay away. The button becomes a symbol of control and curiosity. The person feels drawn to it, not because they need to press it, but because someone told them they shouldn't. This reaction starts early in life. A child hears the word no and learns that certain things are off limits. The cookie jar sits high on the shelf. The parent warns the child not to climb. The warning focuses the child's attention. They wonder what makes the cookie worth guarding. Desire rises. The temptation comes from the restriction. Without the rule, the cookie is just a cookie. Adults feel the same pull. A workplace posts a sign that says, "Do not enter, authorized staff only." Most people never cared about that room until they saw the sign. Now they want to know what lies behind the door. The simple act of blocking access gives the space power. It feels mysterious. It feels important. The mind tells itself that something good or secret must be inside. Psychologists call this reaction reactance. When you believe someone takes away your freedom, you push back. You want to show you still have control. You want to prove your will matters. A teenager told not to date someone may feel even more drawn to that relationship. The rule makes the choice feel like rebellion. The restricted path becomes a test of self. Forbidden choices also attract attention because the brain cares about risk and reward. When something feels dangerous or uncertain, the reward system fires harder. It says, if this works, the payoff will be big. You feel excitement. You feel alive. You focus on the potential thrill instead of the potential harm. The button glows brighter because it might lead to a story worth telling. Think about diets. A person decides to avoid sweets. At first, the rule feels strong. Then a piece of cake appears at an office party. Suddenly, that cake becomes the center of thought. The person wanted to eat healthier, but the restriction makes the cake more valuable in their mind. The act of saying no gives the sugary treat a new shine. If they give in and take a bite, the pleasure feels bigger than usual. The brain rewards breaking the rule. Imagine someone scrolling through their phone. They get the urge to check a message while driving. They know the rule, do not look. They hold the phone anyway. The danger gives the moment energy. They feel like they are testing fate. They tell themselves they are in control. The forbidden action creates a thrill that safe behavior does not. Some forbidden choices feel bright because they promise identity. A person may follow rules their whole life. When they break a rule, they feel different. They see themselves as bold or clever. They think they have revealed a new side of who they are. The button becomes a chance to prove something, even if no one else sees it. Social norms shape this too. When society labels something as taboo, curiosity sharpens. A banned book becomes more interesting than the ones on the shelf. A censored movie attracts extra attention. People crowd around the thing they are told to avoid. The act of hiding it suggests it has power. The brain wants to touch that power. Some choices burn bright, not because they are risky, but because they feel unfairly controlled. A worker may feel frustrated by a strict manager. They follow rules out of fear, not trust. When given a chance to bend the rules without being caught, they feel tempted. The rebellion feels like justice. Pressing the button becomes a way to reclaim dignity. The forbidden can also represent new knowledge. People want to understand what others hide. If you tell someone they cannot know something, they want to know it more. Secrets pull at the mind. They offer the excitement of discovery. Pressing the button promises answers about the world and about yourself. Sometimes the brightest forbidden choices come from harmful places. A person recovering from addiction may feel pulled toward the substance they swore off. They know the damage it causes, yet the rule against it amplifies the craving. The forbidden thing becomes a magnet for attention, and attention fuels desire. The danger here is clear. The brain may value the risky reward more than the long-term health. In love, the forbidden is a powerful force. Someone might be drawn to a person who is already in a relationship. The limit creates tension. The idea of breaking a boundary adds heat. The brain turns a simple attraction into a dramatic story. The button becomes more compelling because it sits behind a locked door. Even in small routines, forbidden choices tempt you. A sign at a museum says, "Do not touch the art." You want to feel the texture of the sculpture. Your hand hovers. You laugh nervously. You ask no one in particular, why not? The answer does not matter. The desire comes from the rule itself. The pull of the forbidden also reveals fear of missing out. The mind imagines that pressing the button could lead to joy or relief. The possibility of a good surprise feels stronger than the risk of a bad outcome. Curiosity does not like to be ignored, yet this system protects us too. The glow of forbidden choices teaches us what we value. If a person regrets not pressing the button, they learn something about desire. If they press it and face consequences, they learn about caution. The tension between rule and temptation shows the shape of our inner world. The mind lights up the path marked "Do not enter." The brain pushes against limits, and the button, quiet and simple, waits with a promise: you can choose to press me. The reason does not need to be strong. The temptation alone is enough to make your hand rise. You believe that you choose your actions as they happen. You feel like the moment you decide to reach for a glass of water is the moment your hand moves. But the brain works ahead of your awareness. It sparks the decision first and tells you about it later. You live a small delay behind your own actions. Most of the time, you do not notice. When you do, the world feels strange, as if your body moves on its own and your thoughts try to catch up. Picture a person driving a car. A ball rolls onto the road. Without thinking, they slam the brakes. The car stops just before a child runs after the ball. A second passes before the driver thinks, "I chose to brake." The brain made the life-saving move before the driver formed a conscious goal. The driver takes credit afterward, but the credit belongs to the hidden part of the brain that reacts faster than thought. This delay has a name in cognitive science, the readiness potential. Studies show that neurons begin preparing a movement up to a full second before you feel like you made a decision. When scientists ask people to press a button whenever they feel the urge, brain scans show that the motor cortex fires early. Only after that surge do people become aware of wanting to press. The wanting comes late. Awareness is a slow reporter. Think of grabbing something that falls. A cup slips from a shelf. Your hand darts out and catches it. You feel proud of your quick reflex. But reflex is not will. The body acted first. The thinking mind arrived after the action and wrote a story to match the result. It says, "I chose to catch that." It does not mention the silent processes working underneath. The brain contains many layers. The conscious layer holds language, planning, and attention. The deeper layers handle instinct, habit, and survival. These layers move faster. They act to protect you. When danger appears, you do not pause to think. You move. Your heartbeat rises. Your muscles tense. Then consciousness steps in and asks what happened. The deeper layers fight the wars that end before awareness knows there was a battle. Consider an athlete on a field. A soccer player sees a defender running toward them. Their feet change direction before they have time to form a full sentence about what to do. Hours of training shaped this skill. The brain recognizes patterns and responds. The player later talks about a smart move. The move came from neurons firing automatically. Even simple habits work this way. You lock the door when leaving your home each day. Later, you wonder if you locked it because you cannot recall the moment. The action was automatic. The conscious mind did not record it. The decision lived in muscle memory and procedural memory. You believe you chose to lock the door today, but the rule in your brain made the choice. There are cases where the timing becomes clear and the illusion cracks. Someone touches a hot stove by accident. The hand pulls back before the brain produces the feeling of pain. The body reacts first to reduce harm. Only after the movement does consciousness register the burn. The pain arrives as a delayed report. We also see this delay in emotion. A loud noise erupts nearby. You jump, your heart pounds. After a moment, you realize it was only a firework. At first, fear acted. Then thought explained. The mind does not plan fear. Fear plans the mind. Even when making slow decisions, the brain might move first. A person stands in a store, staring at two similar items. They think they are weighing the options, but subtle cues push the choice before the final thought. A memory flashes. A color feels familiar. A small association forms. The decision settles. Their mouth says, "I want this one," and they believe the sentence drove the choice. In truth, the choice drove the sentence. Reflection creates the belief that awareness leads. You look back and assume your thoughts came first. You explain your actions after you make them. This explanation feels real. It protects your sense of control. The brain seems to favor a clear story, even if the story hides how things actually unfold. The delay can create conflict inside you. You may react to someone with anger before understanding why. You may walk away from a plan you believed in. Consciousness struggles to explain the shift. You feel torn between what you believe you should do and what your body already set in motion. It feels like a war inside the self. One part pulls you forward, while another part questions the motion. Imagine someone trying to quit smoking. They want to change. They set goals. Yet in moments of stress, their hand reaches for a cigarette before they think about consequences. Consciousness tries to stop it, but the action is already near completion. The person feels trapped behind their own timing. The slower part of the mind loses the race. Social behavior reflects this too. A joke leaves your mouth before you judge whether it is kind. You read the shocked expression on someone's face and feel regret. The brain acted on impulse. Thought tries to clean up the damage. Many apologies begin with the words, "I didn't mean to say that." Some brain disorders reveal this timing more clearly. In conditions like Tourette's syndrome, movements and words appear without warning. People with the condition often explain that the urge rises inside them, and the action seems to happen before they decide. The conscious mind becomes a witness instead of a leader. The mind works like a newsroom. The subconscious gathers information, makes quick calls, and sends the report upstairs. The conscious part reads the report and assumes it wrote it. The newsroom below keeps working, unseen and fast. When you watch yourself closely, you can feel the gap. You speak, then you explain. You move, then you think. The hidden layers steer the ship through storms and obstacles. Consciousness stands on deck and claims it directed the wheel. These split-second wars never end. The fast brain keeps making decisions to keep you alive. The slow brain keeps telling stories so you feel like the author of your life. And every time a decision appears in your thoughts, the real choice may have already passed through your neurons, quiet and quick, before the you know had time to notice. People like to imagine a clear driver inside the brain, a self that sits in the center and makes decisions, a leader who thinks, weighs options, and gives commands. This picture feels right because it matches how life feels. When you choose where to eat or what to say, it seems like there is a voice inside calling the shots. Yet science shows there is no single point of control, no tiny overseer, no inner pilot. The mind is a network of systems working together, sometimes cooperating and sometimes competing. So when you stop at a crossroads and feel stuck, who hesitates? Think about wanting to wake up early to exercise. The night before, you set your alarm with strong motivation. You picture a healthy morning. But when the alarm rings, a different part of your mind speaks up. It says, 5 more minutes. You hit snooze. The desire to change meets the desire to stay comfortable. There is no one decision maker. Two forces push against each other. The result is hesitation. Look at a simple choice like ordering from a menu. You want something new, but you do not want to waste money on a dish you might not like. One part urges adventure. Another protects from disappointment. You stare at the options longer than you expect. The waiter returns twice. The conflict inside feels like a pause, like the self deciding. In truth, the pause is the mind resolving a tug of war among systems evolved for different goals. The same conflict happens in social situations. You want to speak up during a group discussion because you care about the topic, but you worry you might sound foolish. The part that wants connection and expression clashes with the part that fears judgment and harm. You hesitate. The hesitation shows that thought is not unified. It is stitched together from layers of instinct and memory. Even the act of stopping yourself from saying something rude reveals how divided the mind can be. Anger pushes the words forward. Empathy holds them back. You feel the friction. This friction gives the feeling of control. The mind checks itself, but there is no single checker. Many systems push to action or restraint, and the strongest wins. Hesitation also comes from prediction. The brain tries to guess the future before acting. It runs a quick simulation. If the future seems uncertain or risky, the brain pauses. You notice the pause and interpret it as careful thinking. In reality, the brain is doing quiet math. If the simulation feels safe, you move. If not, the pause stretches. You call it indecision. Sometimes the mind conflicts with itself in more dramatic ways. A person may want to leave a job that makes them unhappy, but the thought of losing income triggers fear. They stay. Years pass. They think they made a choice, yet the choice was not a choice. It was a stalemate between desire and fear. Hesitation tied the strings and kept them still. People often talk about willpower as if it were a muscle you can flex. But willpower sits on a foundation of habits and emotions. When someone tries to change a behavior, like quitting alcohol or reducing screen time, the mind splits again. The deeper learning system favors the habit. The forward-looking system wants to stop. The hesitation is the sound of two systems competing for control that no one truly has. There are moments when the conflict becomes clearer. Think about standing at the edge of a diving board. You know how to swim. You know the water is safe. You know you want the thrill. Yet your body resists. Your legs feel heavy. Instinct says, do not fall. Thought says, jump. You find yourself frozen. The hesitation is not a single decision. It is a negotiation among brain circuits built for different kinds of survival. Even language shows this division. People say, part of me wants this, but part of me doesn't. The sentence sounds metaphorical, but it describes a real structure. The mind has parts, not a single ruler. Each part holds its own priorities. When they disagree, you feel stuck. Memory can add another layer. A past failure whispers caution. A past success whispers confidence. These whispers shape how long the pause lasts. Someone who once burned a meal, trying a new recipe, may hesitate to try again. Someone who once impressed others with a bold choice may lean into risk. The hesitation becomes a mirror of what the mind has learned. Habit influences hesitation too. You follow familiar routes because they feel safe. A person may walk the same path to work every day, even though another route is shorter. When shown the map, they hesitate to change. The familiar pattern pulls stronger than logic. The strings pull themselves. Emotions shape hesitation with speed. Fear signals danger before facts arrive. Excitement pushes action before caution weighs in. When these signals arrive at the same moment, hesitation forms. You step forward, then back. You feel torn. There is no master to settle the argument quickly. When someone struggles with a decision, they often ask, "What do I really want?" The question assumes there is one true answer deep inside, but desire shifts with mood, context, and time. If the question has more than one answer, the pause stretches. Hesitation reveals that the self is not one voice. It is a chorus trying to agree on a note. The illusion of control helps you function. You need to believe there is a captain steering. Without that belief, life might feel unsteady, but noticing hesitation lets you see the truth beneath the surface. The mind works through conflict, not command. The strings move because many hands pull, not because one puppeteer gives orders. So when you pause before a decision, do not assume something is wrong. The hesitation shows the mind protecting, testing, and predicting. It shows that choice is never simple. The delay is the sound of many systems inside you, debating what comes next. You tell yourself that you choose your actions. You think your wants lead the way. If you want adventure, you travel. If you want rest, you stay home. If you want to try something new, you take a risk. But many times, personality steps in and decides what you do before desire has a chance to speak. You may want one thing, yet you act towards something else. The gap between what you want and what you do shows that choices do not always come from wishes. They often come from who you are without trying. Imagine someone who wants to go to a party. They like the idea of meeting new people and having fun. Yet when the time comes, they stay home on the couch. They picture walking into a crowded room. They worry about small talk. They fear awkward pauses. Their personality leans toward introversion. The desire remains, but the action follows comfort. They tell themselves they didn't feel like going after all. The truth is simpler. Their personality made the decision. Desire pushes possibilities. Personality limits them. A person who dislikes conflict may want to ask for a raise. They plan the speech. They feel sure of their value. When they stand in front of the manager's door, their hand hesitates. Their heart beats faster. A quiet voice reminds them of the discomfort that comes with confrontation. They walk away and tell themselves it wasn't the right time. They may think desire failed. Really, the personality that seeks peace took the lead. Risk tolerance plays this role too. Someone might dream of starting a business. They read articles. They save money. They imagine success. But when the chance appears, they protect what they already have. They tell themselves they need to wait for better timing. The cautious part of the mind outranks the curious part. The choice looks like patience, but personality wrote the rule. Even when you try to shape your future, personality often shapes the path. A student might want to study art, yet choose accounting. They think it is practical. They think it is safe. They worry that art will not provide security. They make a choice that reflects a cautious nature, not raw desire. Later, they say, I chose the right path, but the path may have chosen them. Personality is not a single trait. It is a cluster of tendencies built from genetics and experience. Some people lean toward order. They organize their schedule and follow routines. They may want a spontaneous night out, yet when a friend calls with last-minute plans, they say they are too busy. The preference for structure wins. They do not feel upset because they believe they acted responsibly. They forget the wish for spontaneity that came earlier. Others lean toward novelty. They jump into new hobbies often. They want stability at times. They may say they want to settle down, but when routine starts to form, they feel restless. They break the pattern before they understand why. They may blame the environment or other people. The deeper driver is their need for change. The personality protects that need, even when desire appears to want the opposite. People with strong empathy show this conflict in a clear way. They want to say no when a request stresses them. They want time for themselves. But when someone asks for help, they agree. They choose to help, not because they desire it every time, but because the discomfort of letting someone down feels worse. Their personality values harmony more than rest. The choice seems generous, but underneath, avoidance of guilt leads the action. Habits connect to personality. If someone grows up being praised for being agreeable, they often continue that pattern. They may want to express a strong opinion. When they feel the words rising, another part of the mind pushes them back. They smile and nod instead. Later, they feel frustration without knowing why. The desire remained, but the action reflected a deeper rule: keep the peace. Fear of failure can guide choices as well. A person might want to attempt something bold, learning a new instrument or changing careers. They picture joy on the other side, but they also picture stumbling and looking foolish. The personality that avoids embarrassment wins the vote. They settle into familiar tasks and call it realism. The desire fades because the action never gave it room. Even comfort can act like a personality trait. People like what feels easy. A person may want to be healthier. They buy running shoes. They read about workout plans. Yet when morning comes, the bed feels warm. The snooze button feels safe. The comfort-seeking part of the mind takes control. The new shoes stay clean in the closet. Sometimes you see the conflict clearly. You say, part of me wants to do this, but part of me doesn't. You feel two selves. One aims forward, one holds back. Personality often holds the stronger rope in that tug of war. After the moment passes, the mind rewrites the story. It makes desire seem smaller than it was. It protects self-esteem by saying the desire was never strong enough. But desire is not weak. It just does not control the levers alone. Many choices happen because your nature sets the limits. You do not choose how easily you feel fear or excitement. You do not choose how much you value routine or curiosity. Those tendencies act first. They filter options before you see them. They shape outcomes before you know a decision is coming. So when you look at your past and ask why you did not chase every dream or follow every urge, the answer may be simple. The dreams were real. The urges were real. But personality stood at the gate. It guided your hand. It told you what felt safe and right. And the choice that emerges often looks like your desire, even when it wasn't. People say freedom is the ability to choose any path. They imagine a life with few limits as the best kind of life. If you can do anything, then you can become your truest self. But when choices multiply without end, freedom can feel heavy. Instead of joy, you feel pressure. Instead of possibility, you feel uncertainty. The open door does not always invite you forward. Sometimes it freezes your feet to the floor. Picture someone standing in front of a wide menu of careers. They could become a teacher, a designer, a nurse, a coder, or an architect. They read job descriptions and imagine each future. The more futures they see, the more afraid they become of choosing the wrong one. They worry that any decision will shut out a better life they might discover later. They feel like picking one path locks 1,000 others behind a door they will never open again. Freedom becomes a trap made from opportunity. Think of a traveler with no plan. They arrive in a city with every hour open. They could visit museums, parks, restaurants, and neighborhoods. They scroll through options on their phone. They want to spend their time well. They want to make the right memories. Yet hours pass while they decide. At the end of the day, they feel tired without having lived the day. Too many choices drained the joy from the moments they could have enjoyed. Even simple decisions show this burden. A person opens a streaming service to relax after work. Hundreds of shows and movies appear. They scroll, they preview, they hesitate. Their aim was to unwind, but the search itself becomes tiring. After half an hour, they settle on something familiar. They could have watched it sooner if there were fewer choices. Freedom becomes stressful when you carry the belief that the right choice exists and you must find it. The idea of perfection hides behind every open door. You wonder if a better friend group is out there, a better home, a better partner, a better version of you. This search for perfect outcomes makes every step feel risky. You fear choosing wrong. You feel responsible for building a flawless life. In relationships, the open door can make commitment harder. Dating apps give you access to more people than you could ever meet in person. Instead of relief, the abundance creates pressure. You meet someone kind, and instead of feeling lucky, you ask if someone kinder is one swipe away. You tell yourself that another match might share more interests or more charm. The door stays open, and you stay restless. You postpone real connection for imagined possibility. The paradox appears in work as well. A person with many skills might believe they can do anything. That belief sounds empowering, yet they struggle to pick a direction. They take one job while thinking about others. They fear that every year they stay, they close a door somewhere else. The open door behind them becomes a constant distraction. They cannot settle, even if the job fits them well. Some people freeze when faced with too much freedom. They avoid decisions to avoid the discomfort of loss. But not choosing becomes its own choice. Time moves whether you move or not. The doors do not stay open forever. The world continues while you pause. The longer you wait, the heavier the choice feels. Happiness often grows from commitment. When you choose one thing, you invest in it. You learn within its limits. A musician picks one instrument and becomes great at it. A gardener accepts the boundaries of soil and weather. A teacher dedicates time to a group of students. The limits allow growth and depth, but an open door suggests that limits are mistakes. It whispers that you could always walk away for something better. Identity can suffer when every path feels available. You shape who you are through repeated choices. If you keep changing direction, your sense of self may not form clearly. You drift instead of root. You look at others and wonder how they seem so sure of their place. They shut some doors. They allowed life to narrow a little. And in the narrowing, they found shape. Think of someone who tries a new hobby every month. They join a class, get excited, then move on. They say they like having many interests, but sometimes they feel empty because nothing sticks. The open door offers novelty, but depth requires staying. Even vacations show the paradox. Some people plan every detail because they fear missing the best spots. They rush from one site to another. They feel behind schedule. The freedom to choose anything turns leisure into work. Others decide to do very little. They sit by the water. They take slow walks. They give themselves structure by giving up the need to find the best moment every moment. An open door invites imagination. You picture what could be, but imagination can also overshadow reality. The life you live must compete with the life you imagine. The open door becomes a window into worlds where everything is easier or more exciting. Real experiences rarely match fantasy. Regret grows even when nothing went wrong. Sometimes we need walls to feel free. A routine can protect the mind from constant decision-making. A commitment can free energy for what matters most. A boundary can turn attention toward what you actually have instead of what you might have had. People often run from structure because they fear feeling trapped, but structure can be a place to rest. True imprisonment is not a locked room. It is the inability to feel right anywhere because every open door asks you to leave before you settle. A yes sounds simple. You agree to something, you say the word, the conversation moves forward. But a yes does not always match what a person wants. Many yeses are shaped by pressure, habit, or fear of disappointing others. The voice says yes when the mind or body wants to say no. The result leaves confusion and discomfort that may surface much later. Picture a friend asking for help during a busy week. You feel tired. You want rest. You say yes because you do not want to seem selfish. You give your time, but the act does not feel like a choice. You feel pulled into it by an expectation you did not challenge. The yes serves the relationship, not your need for rest. This pattern scales to much larger events. A high school senior may feel pressure to pick a major that pleases their parents. They say yes to a path that does not match their interests. They start classes and feel a dull ache of misalignment. They tell themselves they chose freely, but inside, they know the yes was guided by fear of disappointing someone they love. Social scripts guide behavior. When someone offers a gift or invitation, the polite answer is usually yes. A person may accept even when they feel uncomfortable. The habit comes from wanting to appear easy to be around. They believe that saying no risks conflict. They push aside their own comfort because they think it is rude to decline. The yes keeps the peace, while the self quietly steps aside. Many people learn early in life that approval comes when they agree. Children who follow rules receive praise. Children who resist face consequences. As adults, they continue to avoid conflict. They attach identity to being agreeable. Their yes becomes automatic. They do not check whether the agreement reflects a real wish. Think of workplace culture. An employee might be asked to take on extra tasks. They worry about job security. They worry about reputation. They say yes even when the workload hurts their well-being. The yes becomes a shield. It protects them from fear, but it does not protect their health. Even in intimate relationships, the yes can take on pressure. Someone may agree to plans or physical closeness because they feel it is expected. They want to keep the relationship steady. They worry that saying no will be seen as rejection. They may even convince themselves that saying yes proves affection. Later, they feel resentment without knowing why. The body remembers the no that never found a voice. There are moments when a person senses this conflict while the decision forms. They feel a small tension in the chest, a pause, a breath that sticks. That is the moment of inner disagreement. A yes spoken too fast covers that signal. The person hopes the feeling will fade, but often it does not. The stress returns as regret. The mind tries to justify the yes. It builds reasons after the fact. It wasn't a big deal. I didn't want to be difficult. It made them happy. These stories smooth the discomfort, yet the original desire stays buried. Over time, the guilt of ignoring one's needs can build into frustration or burnout. Imagine someone joining a group trip they do not want to take. They fear missing out, or they fear looking unsocial. The yes brings them to places they do not enjoy. They smile in photos while thinking, I wish I were home. They feel trapped by their own response. The yes becomes a cage built by expectation. Boundaries help protect desire, but many people struggle to set boundaries because they were never taught that their comfort matters. They believe that caring for others means ignoring themselves. When they finally say no, they feel guilt as if they did something wrong. A yes feels easier, but the ease hides a cost. Sometimes consent becomes tangled with power. A student might say yes to extra tutoring with a mentor because they feel grateful or indebted. A worker might agree to a request from a supervisor even when it crosses personal comfort. The fear of consequences shapes the yes. It looks voluntary on the outside. Inside, it feels like pressure. Humans crave belonging. Saying yes keeps relationships smooth, but belonging built on constant agreement can feel fragile. You may wonder if people like you, or if they like the version of you who never refuses. The self becomes unclear. You question what you actually enjoy, because so many yeses came from expectation instead of desire. There is also the fear of lost opportunity. A person may say yes to too many commitments because they do not want to close doors. They hope one of the yeses will lead to something meaningful. But spreading themselves thin makes every experience weaker. They say yes to avoid regret, and then regret being stretched. Learning to say no is not about selfishness. It is about honesty. A clear no can be kinder than a forced yes. A no creates space for real yeses. It protects energy for the things that matter. But saying no can feel like stepping into cold water. It takes practice. The first few times may bring discomfort or awkwardness. Over time, the discomfort fades. Confidence grows when desire and action align. Some people rehearse polite ways to say no because they fear sounding harsh. They learn to say, "Thank you for thinking of me, but I can't." They discover that most people respond with understanding. The world does not fall apart when they decline. Every yes carries weight. A yes chosen with care feels strong and full. A yes driven by fear or expectation feels hollow. The gap between want and action leaves a mark. That mark reminds us that consent is not only about the words spoken aloud. It is also about listening to the quiet voice inside that says, "I do not want this," even when the mouth says yes. When you look back at your life, many choices seem to form a clear line. You met the people you needed to meet. You took the job that led to the next one. You moved at the right time. You survived a difficult year and learned something you needed later. The path feels planned when seen from the end. You say you decided every step, but it can feel like something deeper pulled you forward. It can feel like fate shaped the road while convincing you that you chose the turns. Think of the first time you met someone who later became important in your life. It might have been a chance moment. You sat next to them in a class because the seat was open. You joined a club at the right time. You worked a job you did not love, yet met a friend who changed everything. At the moment, you thought it was your decision to sit down or accept that job. Later, when you see what came from it, the moment feels larger. It feels like it had to happen. Sometimes you want to go one way and end up going another without knowing why. A student might dream of becoming a doctor, but fails one test that changes their path. They shift into research and discover they love the work. Years later, they say it was meant to be. But at the time, the decision did not feel like a plan. It felt like coping with disappointment. Fate often hides inside setbacks. A choice that looked like failure becomes meaningful when enough time passes. Coincidence also plays a role. You check your phone at the exact second someone messages you with news that shapes your future. You miss one bus and catch another that leads to a new experience. You open a random book and find a sentence that changes how you think. These moments do not announce importance. They look ordinary until you connect them later. The mind likes stories. It turns these events into proof that the world guided you. Desire can follow patterns you do not choose. A person may feel drawn toward a career, a city, or a type of partner without knowing why. They say it feels right. That feeling can come from personality, biology, or early experiences. The pull looks like fate because you do not see the gears turning inside your brain. Your decision feels like instinct. The instinct feels like destiny. Families often tell stories that make fate seem real. A parent says, "I always knew you would become this." A grandparent says you inherited a trait from someone you never met. These stories shape identity. They suggest your path was there long before you walked it. You believe you chose the path, but the idea of destiny gives comfort. It tells you your life makes sense. Some choices appear free, but are shaped by limits you cannot see. The culture around you influences what feels possible. A young adult may say they chose their career freely, yet the choice fits what society values. The options that do not fit never appear in their mind. The invisible limits make the chosen path feel like destiny because it matches the world's expectations. Fear and comfort also push us. A person may want adventure, but stay close to home. Later, they say their roots kept them grounded for a reason. They shape a narrative that fits the outcome. They say they always knew they would stay. The story hides the fear that played a major role. The decision felt like fate, but fear guided the hand. Sometimes the future gives meaning to the past. A hard breakup might lead someone to therapy and self-growth. Years later, they say the breakup was necessary. They believe it put them on the right path. They might feel like they were guided. The meaning arrived after the pain. The meaning dresses up the event as destiny. People feel safer when they believe life has direction. Fate can act as a shield against regret. If you think your choices were meant to happen, you do not dwell on what you did not choose. You do not torture yourself with alternate futures. You trust the path. The idea of destiny keeps doubt quiet. It removes the burden of total responsibility. Think about those moments when you say, "I just knew." You quit a job, move to a new city, or end a relationship. You tell others you followed a feeling. The feeling looks like a choice, but it often grows from years of learning and sensing. The brain collects clues long before you are aware of them. When the clues reach a point of certainty, you act. The act feels guided. The brain prefers to show you confidence rather than confusion. There are also times when you resist something again and again, yet it keeps returning. A hobby you leave behind but find again later. A subject you avoided that becomes central to your career. A person you lose contact with and unexpectedly see years later. Repetition through chance makes the moment feel planned. You convince yourself that the universe nudged you. Some people believe in destiny because they see patterns in random events. They connect dots that were not placed with intention. They notice that certain numbers appear often. They see meaning in dates and coincidences. The brain looks for order. It tries to map chaos into narrative. When the pattern feels strong, you call it fate. But even without mystical beliefs, the idea of destiny stays alive. It comes from the way memory works. The mind edits the past to fit the present. It highlights the moments that led somewhere. It erases the countless choices that did not matter. When the story becomes clean, it looks designed. The mask of decision covers the deeper truth. The path you walk is built from chance, personality, influence, and reaction. You say you chose it, but many times you follow the direction your life pushes you. The sense of destiny comes from the fit between who you are and where you ended up. It tells you, this is where you were meant to be, even if the road was never truly yours to control. People talk about finding their path in life as if a route already exists. They imagine a map drawn somewhere, waiting for them to discover the correct line. They search for signs or signals to show which way to go. But life does not hand you a pre-made path. You take a step, and only then does the ground appear under your feet. The map comes second. The path forms from the choices you make, even when those choices feel unclear or accidental. Think of a student unsure about their future. They take a class because it fits their schedule, not because they think it will shape their life. Inside that class, they learn something that sparks interest. The interest leads to a major. The major leads to a career. Years later, they talk about how they always belonged in that field. They draw a line backward and call it a path. But the line only exists because they moved. The desire seemed discovered, but it was created by stepping into that room on that day. Small decisions often shape the biggest outcomes. Someone might turn left instead of right during a walk and come across a help wanted sign at a cafe. They apply on a whim. They meet coworkers who become close friends. They learn skills they enjoy. The job looks like fate, but there was no map pointing to that cafe. The choice drew the line. Then, the brain wrote the story that the line was always there. People search for purpose before moving forward. They want certainty first. They want to see the whole route before they commit. But purpose often follows action, not the other way around. A person begins volunteering because a friend asked. They discover joy in helping others. Later, they might say they found their calling. The calling was not waiting hidden. It grew from involvement. Without the first step, there would be nothing to call purpose. Even our identity changes through this process. You might think you know who you are and what you like, but you learn what you love by doing, not by thinking. A shy person tries a public speaking group to challenge themselves. They find out they enjoy performing. They rewrite their idea of who they are. The person they become creates the map backward. They say, I was meant for this, though they once avoided it. Regret reveals this pattern too. When you look back and think you chose wrong, the map changes again. An event that felt right becomes a mistake. A mistake becomes a lesson. The path gets redrawn based on where you stand now. The map adjusts to give meaning to what already happened. Picture a relationship that begins casually. Two people meet through friends. They go out a few times. Over time, the connection deepens. They build a life together. Later, they say it was obvious from the start. They see signs in old messages, shared jokes, or small coincidences. They turn those memories into evidence of a destined path. But at first, it was just two people giving something a chance. The story came later. Some choices feel pressured, yet still shape the map. A person may take a job because they need money. They do not expect satisfaction, but they meet someone who introduces them to a new field. The need pushed the first decision, and the new direction followed. The person might later believe they were guided to that job. It feels comforting to think the path was known. The mind prefers narrative to randomness. The language of discovery, finding myself, finding my path, finding my calling, suggests hidden trails, but the truth sits closer to construction. You build the self, you build the path. Each action places another stone behind you. When you look back, it feels designed only because you can now see the line. Some people fear making the wrong choice because they think it will take them off their real path. They hesitate, they stall, they wait for certainty, but certainty does not come. The map does not draw itself without motion. A delayed decision is still a decision. The map remains blank until you move. Even mistakes create forward shape. Someone tries a business that fails. They feel crushed. They think they wasted time and resources. But later, they use what they learned to succeed elsewhere. Others see them as talented. They point to the failure as a turning point. The event that once looked like a detour becomes part of the main road. The brain enjoys connecting dots. It turns chaos into story. It smooths out the sharp turns. It hides the moments of doubt. It gives your life a clean arc. You acted, then explained. You chose, then justified. The future tells the past what it was supposed to mean. Imagine walking through a forest with no trail. You move where the land allows. You avoid thick brush, climb a hill, follow a stream. When you reach a clearing, you look back and see a line through the trees. It feels like the line guided you, but you made it one step at a time. People often admire those who seem confident in their direction. They think those people saw the map early, but confidence usually grows from action, not from clarity. A singer who performs often will feel more certain than a singer who only daydreams about music. The path looks obvious only after many steps. Choice invents direction. Every small yes creates a bridge to something else. Every no closes one door and opens another you did not expect. The map never shows ahead. It only fills in behind you. When life feels confusing, the blank space ahead can look frightening, but every person walking a path once stood in that same empty space. They did not follow a perfect plan. They learned what mattered by trying things that did and did not work. Their confidence came later. The map is not found, it is made, and the traveler does not follow the map. The map follows the traveler, drawing itself with each decision, each risk, and each moment of uncertain courage. People like to believe that choices come from clear reasons. You look at options, you weigh them, and then you choose. But there are moments when the reasons on both sides feel equal. You stare at the fork in the road and feel stuck. In those moments, chance sometimes steps in. A flip of a coin, a random pick, a quick decision made without much thought. The action feels small. Yet once the coin lands, the path that follows becomes your life. The random moment becomes something you must own. Think about someone choosing between two job offers. Both roles look appealing. Both companies seem stable. The person makes lists of pros and cons. They talk to friends. They sleep on it. Days go by and the answer does not come. Finally, they flip a coin. The results point to one job. They accept it. They move cities. They meet people they never would have met. Years later, they forget the coin flip. They believe they chose the job for solid reasons. The randomness fades, replaced by a story that feels intentional. Even small random acts can grow into important outcomes. A person picks a restaurant at random while traveling. They sit at a small table near a stranger. They start a conversation. That stranger introduces them to someone who later becomes a close friend or partner. The first decision did not come from a deep plan. It came from chance. But the bond that forms feels meaningful. The story changes from "I picked a place at random" to "I was meant to be there." When chance makes the first move, responsibility takes over after. You can flip a coin to choose a college, but you must show up to classes, complete assignments, and build relationships. Randomness cannot carry the future. You must keep moving. The decision feels like yours because you are the one living it. You walk the road that chance revealed. This pattern shows in habits too. Someone might try a new hobby because they saw a flyer or clicked a link without thinking. They attend the class. They enjoy it more than expected. Weeks later, they keep going. The hobby becomes important. The origin becomes a blur. It no longer matters why they tried it. It matters that they stayed. Randomness often reveals hidden preference. When someone flips a coin to decide something, they sometimes feel disappointed by the result. They realize they want the opposite. The coin does not choose for them. It exposes the desire they could not find on their own. A person might say, "If I feel relief when the coin lands on yes, I know I want yes." In this way, chance helps the heart speak when the mind is confused. A common example is deciding whether to break up with someone. If a friend flips a coin on your behalf and it lands on end it, you immediately know how you truly feel by your reaction. If panic rises, then you are not ready to leave. If relief rises, then the door was already open. The coin becomes a mirror, not a judge. The brain uses randomness to explore new paths. In neuroscience, there is a concept called stochastic behavior. The brain sometimes introduces noise into decision-making. This noise helps you avoid getting trapped in patterns. When every signal is too predictable, the mind struggles to adapt. A little randomness keeps life flexible. What looks like a win may be the brain's way of finding new opportunities. Yet once randomness leads to action, the mind creates reasons after. This is called confabulation. You explain the decision in a way that feels logical. You say, "I chose this because," even if the true cause was a quick impulse. The story protects your sense of control. It takes a coin toss and turns it into wisdom. Responsibility glows from how you react to the random opening. If you flip a coin and it tells you to apply for a class, you still must do the work. If you meet someone by chance, you still must build trust. If you take a job at random, you must still show up each morning. Life does not care whether the first step came from a careful plan or a moment of luck. You are still the one walking. Random events can also teach you who you are. Someone might travel to a place they never considered just because tickets were cheap. They discover they love the culture. They learn a language. They change how they live. The randomness reveals a side of them that planning never would have uncovered. The accident becomes a core memory. At times, randomness becomes a shield from blame. A person can say, "The coin told me to do it," as if the coin carries the weight of the outcome. But once the choice becomes real, they own it. They cannot point to the coin when facing challenges. They must solve the problems. They must learn from mistakes. A yes that came from chance becomes a commitment that must be earned. A no that came from chance may close a path forever, and you learn to accept it. That acceptance becomes part of your character. We sometimes forget how many parts of our lives began without deep thought. The playlist you love might have started with a song that autoplayed. The friend you trust most may have sat next to you by pure luck. The major turns of your life might trace back to small, random events that did not feel important at the time. The randomness does not reduce the value of the outcome. It simply shows that you did not start with certainty. You started with motion. You shaped meaning afterward. You turned chance into responsibility. You turned a coin toss into a life. You feel like your desires rise from within you. You think you want what you want because it reflects who you are. You choose the shoes you buy, the music you enjoy, the food you crave, and the people you admire. That picture feels simple and comforting. But desire does not come from a single source. It forms in layers: genetics, memory, marketing, family values, social influence, fear, and pleasure. When you look closely, it becomes harder to say, "This is fully mine." Consider something as basic as hunger. You think you choose your favorite foods, yet taste depends on exposure. Children often crave the dishes they ate in their earliest years. A person raised on spicy food may love heat, while someone else avoids it. Culture shapes the menu, and the menu shapes desire. The tongue responds to what the environment teaches it. Look at clothes. Fashion trends shift every year. A style that looked strange 2 seasons ago suddenly appears attractive. Your desire for a type of shoe or jacket often arrives after you see enough people wearing it. A style becomes familiar. Familiarity becomes preference. You tell yourself you like it because it fits your identity. But identity itself learned to follow the crowd. Advertising takes advantage of these patterns. Companies study what draws the eye and what triggers emotion. They design packaging, slogans, and colors that make your brain fire reward signals. The moment you buy something, you believe the desire came from you. The messaging that influenced you fades into the background. The algorithm of want does not announce itself. Even deep desires form through influence. A person may believe they want a certain career. They might say they chose law because they love justice. But if several adults praise them for being articulate, that praise may have shaped the goal. A dream can begin as a compliment. The mind adopts the idea and rewrites the story later. The choice feels internal, but was planted by feedback from others. Social media amplifies these forces. When you see posts that gain likes, you pick up cues about what society approves. You might post a similar photo next time. You adjust your tone. You follow trends. The desire for approval blends into the desire for specific actions. You cannot separate them cleanly. The algorithm pushes certain images into view, and those images shape what you consider beautiful, interesting, or worth wanting. Think about relationships. You meet someone and feel drawn to them. You may think it is chemistry or fate, but attraction depends on what you have seen before. A familiar accent reminds you of home. A gesture reminds you of someone who once cared for you. A small trait unlocks a memory that shapes desire. You do not choose the memory chooses for you. Peer influence is subtle but strong. A person who joins a group of hikers may start to love hiking. A person who becomes friends with musicians may start playing an instrument. The desire appears after the group sets the stage. You call it discovery. But the discovery came from exposure. If the sane person had joined a chess club instead, a different desire might have formed. Genes add another layer. Some people crave novelty. They jump into new hobbies often because their brains reward exploration. Others crave stability and routine. They stick with what they know. They think they choose those patterns. In reality, biology nudged them there long before a decision appeared. Fear also shapes desire. You may want safety more than excitement. You may want approval more than honesty. You may want comfort more than challenge. These wants do not come from bold vision. They come from the nervous system trying to protect you. You rarely question them because they feel natural, and natural feels true. Past experience edits the menu of options. If you once failed at something, you may stop wanting it. If you once succeeded, you may want more. You build preferences from the reinforcement loop of reward and disappointment. The loop works whether you notice it or not. You can see this pattern when someone moves to a new city. At first, nothing stands out. They do not crave local foods or local hangouts. After a few months, they form favorite spots. They say those places match their taste. In truth, the environment wrote a new script for what they enjoy. Marketing, culture, memory, biology, habit, and emotion all play their part. They install desires quietly. You experience them as personal truth. Still, desire does not feel forced. Even when shaped by outside forces, it arrives through your body and your voice. You feel the pull inside your chest. You make the choice with your hand. The influence stays invisible. Imagine someone adopting a dog. They see a video online. They feel moved. They decide they want companionship. After a few months, they say adopting was their best choice. Did the want come from a deep inner longing, or from a string of images and stories that entered their mind at the right moment? The answer can be both. The self forms around what the environment offers. You want because you learn to want. You desire because your brain responds to the world in specific patterns. The algorithm runs quietly, adjusting to what you see, hear, and repeat. Over time, ownership grows. A desire that started from influence can become part of what you value. A person who first tried painting because a friend suggested it may later paint because it feels like home. The original spark may not matter once the fire is real. You cannot peel desire down to a pure core untouched by influence, but you can notice how desires change with context. You can ask why you want what you want. You can slow down enough to see the nudges that guide you. When you look at your wants with curiosity instead of certainty, you find a mind that adapts, a mind that absorbs signals and turns them into conviction, a mind that builds a self out of influences it did not choose. Hesitation feels like weakness. You pause before speaking or making a move. You wonder why you cannot act as fast as others. You think the delay means doubt, but that pause holds the space where identity takes shape. Action reveals what the mind has already settled. Hesitation shows the parts of you still negotiating. In that small gap between impulse and choice, the self decides who it wants to become. Picture a child on a playground. They want to try the tall slide. They climb halfway and stop. Other children rush past without thinking. The child stands still, feeling both fear and excitement. That moment matters. The pause is not useless. It allows the mind to weigh safety against bravery. If the child decides to go down the slide, they feel pride. If they climb back down, they learn about their current limits. Either choice becomes part of who they are. Without the pause, they would not learn anything at all. Adults experience the same moment in different forms. Think about a person in a meeting who has a good idea. They want to speak up, but they pause. They ask themselves whether their idea is worth sharing. They picture reactions. They consider their role in the group. The hesitation may end in silence or speech. If they share the idea, they claim a confident identity. If they stay quiet, they protect themselves from risk. Both outcomes reflect the values shaping the person. Hesitation appears when two sides of the self disagree. One part seeks growth, another part seeks safety. The pause is not a failure, it is a conversation. You feel the tension because the decision touches who you are. When the stakes feel low, you act without delay. When the stakes threaten identity, you hesitate. Fear plays a large role in hesitation. A person may want to audition for a play. They picture themselves on stage. They practice lines at home, but when the day arrives, they pause outside the door. The fear asks, "What if I fail?" Desire asks, "What if this becomes something important?" The longer they wait, the more those questions shape how they see themselves. If they go in, they build a narrative of courage. If they walk away, they strengthen a narrative of caution. Their self-image evolves in either direction. Hesitation also shows you care. You pause before you tell someone the truth you know will hurt them. You pause before making a commitment that will take effort to honor. You pause before ending a relationship because you know the pain involved. The delay shows empathy and responsibility. Acting with no hesitation could mean ignoring consequences. Even morality lives inside pauses. A person might feel angry and want to lash out. The pause lets compassion enter. They may still react, but the delay creates room for reflection. That moment shows values in motion. It shapes character more than any quick reaction ever could. Think of someone deciding whether to accept a job far from home. They hesitate because they hold love for their current life and hope for a future somewhere new. The pause reveals who they are trying to become. If they choose the new job, they embrace change. If they stay, they choose stability. The decision is important, but the hesitation is where they measure their identity. Identity changes with repetition of choices. The first pause may feel long, the second one shorter. Soon habits form. A person who often hesitates before speaking may become known as reserved. A person who pushes through hesitation may become known as bold. The pause trains the self. It responds by leaning more strongly in one direction over time. Some pauses stretch too long. A person may avoid decisions and let life choose for them. When that happens, The lack of action also shapes identity. Someone who never steps forward may become defined by fear. Someone who never slows down may become defined by impulse. The relationship with hesitation matters more than the amount of it. The pause is where honesty appears. In that quiet second, you feel the truth of what you want and what you fear. The body tells you something before you think it through. A tight stomach means you are uneasy. A held breath means something matters. These cues guide you if you pay attention. Hesitation gives you a chance to ask questions. Who am I in this moment? Who do I want to be after I choose? If you act too fast, you skip that insight. If you pause too long, you may never act. The balance is where identity grows strongest. You move and you reflect. You act and you learn. Consider forgiveness. Someone wrongs you. You want to forgive, but the pain says, wait. The pause here respects both justice and healing. If forgiveness comes too fast, it may ignore truth. If it never comes, anger shapes you instead. In the middle, hesitation lets you decide what kind of person you will be. People often think confidence means lack of hesitation. They imagine leaders who speak without fear. Yet wise leaders know when to stop and think. Their hesitation does not weaken their choice. It strengthens it. They move with calm because they trust the time they took. When you look back at important moments, you notice the hesitation more than the action. You remember standing at the airport gate before a move. You remember holding your phone before making a difficult call. You remember sitting alone before deciding to change your life. The pause carries the weight of becoming. Every choice writes your story, but hesitation holds the pen before the ink hits the page. It is the space where identity decides what the next sentence will be. You picture a decision as a moment with two options: yes or no, stay or go, speak or stay silent. It feels like you stand at a point where the future will split in two. But before action happens, both futures feel possible. In that space between thought and movement, you hold two lives at the same time. You imagine what could happen if you choose one way. You imagine what could happen if you choose the other. Both paths feel real because neither has been erased yet. The physicist Erwin Schrödinger described a cat in a box. Until someone opens the box, the cat is both alive and dead according to quantum theory. The state stays uncertain. It exists in two conditions at once. Human choices work the same way. If you have not acted, you have not collapsed the possibilities around you. You live with a yes and a no inside the same moment. Imagine a student thinking about applying to a school abroad. They picture walking down unfamiliar streets. They picture staying home. They write the application, delete it, then write it again. In their mind, they travel and they stay. Both futures wait. Only when they hit submit or walk away does one future become the truth. This period of uncertainty can feel exciting. It gives the mind room to play. You can imagine yourself successful in every direction. In those thoughts, you are many things: bold and cautious, loyal and adventurous, practical and dreamy. None of these versions have been lost yet, but uncertainty can also feel heavy. You carry the weight of multiple selves and cannot live them all. Think of choosing whether to confess feelings for someone. You stand at the edge of action. If you speak, you risk rejection. If you stay silent, you risk regret. Before the choice, the relationship sits in two states. You believe they could say yes. You fear they might say no. In this superposition, hope and fear share one breath. Once you speak or stay silent, the wave collapses. The outcome arrives. One version of the relationship becomes real. The other fades into memory or fantasy. You may notice that sometimes you put off decisions so you can keep both doors open. A person might stay in a job they do not like, telling themselves they could leave at any time. They do not look for new work. They do not commit to staying either. They remain in a middle state because it feels safer than losing one option forever. Yet time still moves. Not acting becomes its own action. The superposition does not freeze the world outside. The brain encourages this delay when outcomes feel uncertain. When the risk is unclear, hesitation gives the mind more time to make predictions. But predictions never become perfect. Life refuses to guarantee what will happen. The moment of commitment always carries risk, and the human mind tries to postpone risk whenever possible. This creates the illusion that the delay protects you from loss. In truth, it only protects you from knowing which loss you will face. Some decisions create regret, no matter how you choose. If you move to a new city, you gain new experiences and lose familiar comforts. If you stay, you keep comfort but lose the new. Until you decide, both gains and losses feel possible. After you decide, path not taken becomes a shadow. You see only the cost of your choice. You forget that keeping both futures alive forever would also cost you a life fully lived. In daily life, this happens in small ways too. You stand in a store holding two products. You think one might be better, but you aren't sure. The longer you hold them, the harder it feels to commit. You fear picking wrong, but picking neither brings no relief. The choice only grows heavier because every moment gives the mind time to imagine more possible futures. Even identity sits in this uncertain space sometimes. When people ask who you are, you think of traits you already show. But inside, there are traits not yet expressed. There are skills you might learn, people you might love, places you might go. Until you act, you are both the person who tries and the person who never tries. Action decides which version you become. Inaction preserves the illusion that both remain open. Sometimes you make a decision quickly to escape the weight of uncertainty. You say yes to plans before you think. You say no before you consider. Once you choose, you feel relief because the mind stops juggling possibilities. You no longer hold competing futures. But the speed hides the fear that drove you to avoid the discomfort of not knowing. The moment before a decision tells the truth about what you value. If taking a risk feels terrifying, you learn how much you prefer safety. If staying still feels unbearable, you learn how much you crave change. The tension teaches you what matters. Once you act, the tension disappears, and the lesson becomes memory. Every choice begins as uncertainty. You do not know if the new path will be better or worse. You only know that choosing makes it real. There is courage in collapse. There is clarity in letting one future remain and letting the other go. But before the collapse, you hover in a place where both lives belong to you. Schrödinger's box shows that uncertainty is not a flaw. It is a state where possibility lives. While you hesitate, two outcomes stay alive. Both deserve attention. Both try to prove they deserve to become your truth. Only when you take the step do you learn which version of your life will breathe. People often seek certainty. They want to know where they are going, what will happen next, and how their choices will turn out. Certainty feels like safety. It gives comfort and order. It shields against fear and chaos. But a life built only on certainty can feel small. The locked door that keeps danger out also keeps discovery out. What starts as protection can become a cage. Think about someone who has worked at the same job for many years. They know the tasks well. They know the people. The routine offers no surprises. They feel secure, but they also feel restless. They imagine what else they could do. They picture a career that uses more of their abilities. They dream of a different city or a new field. Every time they think about leaving, fear rises. They stay because they know this world. The locked door of certainty holds them in place. The safety feels steady, yet the life inside grows tight. A similar pattern shows up in relationships. Two people may stay together long after the bond weakens. They share habits, schedules, and a sense of normal. The idea of change feels frightening. Leaving would require facing the unknown. They tell themselves familiarity is love. They settle for predictability. The relationship becomes a room with soft walls, comfortable but closed. Certainty becomes the goal instead of connection. Even personal identity can become locked. A person may say, "This is just who I am," as if growth has reached the end. They avoid trying new hobbies or meeting new people because they believe their role in the world is fixed. They protect a version of themselves that may no longer fit. Certainty about identity may keep judgment away, but it also keeps evolution out. The brain loves patterns. They save energy and protect from risk. But patterns can turn into routines that shut out change. Someone who eats the same meals every week feels safe. The food tastes fine. They do not consider new flavors. They tell themselves they do not like surprises, but often they do not know what they are missing. Certainty becomes a habit that quietly erases curiosity. Technology creates certainty in small but constant ways. A music app suggests songs based on what you already like. A newsfeed shows articles that match your interests. A map app guides you along efficient routes. Everything suits your known preferences. The world narrows. You hear fewer new voices. You explore fewer new ideas. Certainty shapes your comfort zone until it becomes the only zone. Parents often teach children to choose the safe path. Pick the major with job security. Choose the stable career. Live close to home. The advice comes from love, but it can limit possibility. A child learns to avoid risk because risk holds the threat of failure. They grow cautious. Their dreams shrink to fit inside certainty. Certainty can also silence honesty. Someone may avoid telling the truth because they want to keep the peace. They worry about conflict. They keep opinions inside. They agree when they disagree. They become a constant yes to avoid rocking the boat. The certainty of being liked overrides the possibility of being known. People who fear making the wrong choice sometimes avoid choosing altogether. They wait for the right time. They wait to feel completely ready. That moment rarely comes. Time moves while they stand still. The longer they wait, the harder it becomes to move. The certainty of staying becomes stronger than the possibility of change. Regret often hides inside certainty. Someone looks back on life and sees all the roads they never took. The missed opportunities show the cost of never risking. They stayed safe, but the safety kept adventure and growth on the other side of the locked door. Certainty can take the form of strict belief. When someone believes they already understand the world, they stop learning. New information feels like a threat. They cling to the comfort of being right. But certainty of belief prevents curiosity. It stops them from revising their understanding when truth shifts. There's a reason the unknown feels frightening. It holds both risk and promise. You might lose something. You might fail. You might feel lost. But you might also discover what you never knew you loved. You might meet people who shift your perspective. You might find a part of yourself waiting to grow. Consider a person who finally opens the locked door. They take a new job. They move to a new place. They enter a new relationship. At first, the world outside it feels too wide. They face doubt, but they also feel more alive. The uncertainty creates a pulse. They make choices that shape their path. They learn through experience instead of imagination. Certainty closes possibility. Uncertainty creates potential. The door that protects can also confine. You can stay where everything is known. You will feel safe, but safety without growth becomes stagnation. A locked door does not ask anything of you. An open door asks who you want to become when you step through. Every large change starts with a single step. The first action often feels small. You may not even notice it. A habit, a friendship, a career, or a belief can begin quietly, like a whisper. But once the first domino falls, the direction of your life can shift. The change seems sudden when you look back, yet it started long before you realized it. Picture a person who decides to go for a short walk one evening. They feel restless and want fresh air. The walk becomes a weekly routine, then a daily one. They feel stronger, so they try a gym class. They meet people there who encourage them. A few years later, exercise becomes a core part of their identity. They say they rebuilt their health, but the change began with one small walk. The first domino looked harmless. It carried power they did not see. Small decisions grow faster than we expect. Think of someone who buys a journal because a friend recommends writing. They fill a page, then another. They try poetry. They share a piece online. Someone responds. They feel seen. They write more. Years pass, and they call themselves a writer. The first purchase was simple. The path that followed was not. Sometimes a small moment leads somewhere painful. A student delays one homework assignment because they feel tired. Then they delay the next. The work piles up. They fall behind. Stress rises. They stop turning in assignments. School becomes overwhelming. They feel like they failed suddenly, but the turning point was one skipped task. The first domino pushed the rest. The power of beginnings creates fear. You worry that one wrong step will create consequences you cannot undo. You hesitate before trying something new because you fear what it might start. You fear addiction, heartbreak, embarrassment, or disappointment. The weight of the first domino can make you freeze. You imagine the chain reaction before anything even happens. People also fear starting because a beginning demands follow-through. A person might say they want to learn a language. They buy a textbook but never open it. If they start, they may discover the work is harder than they hoped. If they avoid beginning, they can still claim they want to learn without facing the truth. The first action forces honesty. It shows who truly commits. Sometimes small beginnings come from chance. A brief conversation on a bus can lead to a job referral. A random meeting can lead to love. A mistake can lead to a lesson that changes direction. You might call these moments luck. Yet once the domino falls, the result depends on how you keep reacting. Luck opens a door. You choose whether to walk through it. Technology shows this pattern on a huge scale. Clicking one video online leads to a recommendation for another. Then another. Hours pass. Opinions shift. Beliefs strengthen. What started as curiosity becomes influence. One click shapes attention. Attention shapes worldview. The small action of tapping a screen can shift the way a person sees the world. Relationships begin this way too. A greeting, a shared interest, a second conversation. One day you realize someone plays a central role in your life. The first hello was a small moment. The story that followed built itself. Fear can take the first domino and turn it into a warning. If one goal fails, people sometimes assume the whole chain will collapse. Someone who starts a diet and eats one treat might say, "I ruined everything," and quit. The first slip becomes the second becomes the third. Soon, the line falls in the opposite direction. The same principle that builds success also builds setbacks. The mind tries to simplify cause and effect. It likes clear explanations. But change rarely comes from one dramatic act. It comes from repeating a small act until the repetition transforms the person. The first domino matters because the next one stands ready. A habit forms not from intention, but from momentum. You also see this in courage. A shy person might speak in a meeting once. The experience goes well. They speak again next time. Their voice grows stronger. They start taking new opportunities. People see them as confident. That confidence grew out of a single moment where they decided to open their mouth and let the words come out. The same dynamic shapes creativity. An artist does not start with a masterpiece. They make one sketch. They try again. Improvement arrives through accumulation, not lightning strikes. One stroke leads to the next. Soon, the work has a life of its own. Sometimes you do not know which small act will matter. Plenty of first dominoes fall and go nowhere. A hobby ends after a few tries. A conversation ends without connection. But one small act eventually finds its chain. The uncertainty makes beginnings feel risky. Yet without beginnings, nothing grows. When you reflect on your past, you can see where major changes started. A single decision to leave home. A single night spent studying. One moment of telling the truth when lying felt easier. You watch the dominoes fall in memory and tell yourself the first step was brave or necessary. But in the moment, the first domino often falls without fanfare. There is quiet power in noticing small beginnings. The day you take a class, the minute you try something new, the second you choose a different habit. These brief flashes can shape years of life. You do not control every domino waiting in line. You control only the first. The rest follow, one by one, turning a small act into a defining story. Memory feels like a record of what actually happened. You think your past sits fixed, a story told in facts, but the mind does not store events like a video. It keeps fragments and fills in the rest. When you imagine a different outcome, the brain sometimes treats that imagined version like a memory. The life you did not live becomes a quiet companion. It follows you like a parallel biography that exists only in your thoughts. Think back to a moment when you faced a major decision. Maybe you turned down a school far from home. At the time, you believed staying close would help you focus. Years later, you look around and feel restless. You picture yourself walking through a campus in another country. You imagine late-night talks with strangers who would have become friends. You imagine new streets and new chances. That version of life starts to feel almost real. It becomes part of your story even though it never happened. You can describe it in detail. Your mind gives it shape. People replay endings that never came true. Someone might think about a relationship that ended early. They imagine how things would look if timing had been better. They picture a home they never shared or a trip they never took. They feel a kind of nostalgia for experiences they never lived. The brain writes scenes with the same strokes it uses for true memory. It does not separate imagination and reality as clearly as we like to believe. Often, this comes from a desire for control. The past cannot be changed, but the imagined past can. You can rewrite it to give yourself comfort or hope. If you missed an opportunity, you picture yourself succeeding in that alternate version. You say, if I had only done that one thing differently, everything today would be better. Your mind builds the missing chapter so the story feels balanced. Sometimes the imagined past offers a warning. You think about taking a risky job offer that you declined. In one version of the story, you imagine success. In another, you imagine failure. The brain explores different timelines to learn from them. It looks for patterns that might help in the future. These what-ifs help you understand the weight of small moves, but the exercise can also trap you in regret. Cognitive scientists call this counterfactual thinking. It means creating mental pictures of what could have happened but did not. These pictures change the emotional tone of memory. If you imagine a better outcome, your real memory feels worse. If you imagine a worse outcome, your real memory can feel more comforting. The mind edits both versions and keeps them. Imagine a person who once auditioned for a school play but froze on stage. The real memory holds embarrassment and fear. Yet years later, when they see actors on television, they imagine a different version of themselves. In that version, they delivered the lines with confidence. That imagined memory grows. It tells them they might have had talent. The pain of the true memory softens a little, but the imagined success can also bring a quiet ache, a sense that the person they could have been is more exciting than the person they are. This alternate biography does not stay hidden. It influences the choices you make now. A person who believes they missed out on music might encourage their child to learn an instrument. They may buy a guitar for themselves and start again. The imaginary past shapes the real future. The thought, "I could have been," becomes fuel for "I can still be." The imagination does not always paint better stories. Someone who experienced a breakup may imagine how terrible staying together would have been. They create memories of fights that never happened. These imagined scenes support the belief that leaving was right. The mind uses imagination to protect from doubt. You see the same pattern in career paths. A worker might think they should have chosen a more creative field. They imagine themselves as a designer or filmmaker. They see a life filled with expression, but they forget that those fields bring uncertainty and stress. The imaginary path trims away the difficulties. The real path holds the weight of actual experience. Imagination edits out the trouble. Social comparison adds fuel. When you see someone online living a life you once considered, your mind fills in gaps. You imagine that their life is easy and fulfilling. You compare your reality to their edited moments. The version of you who followed their path becomes clearer and brighter. You feel like you lost something, even if you never truly wanted what they have. We tell stories about ourselves to ourselves. If the current story feels small, we reach for the bigger one in our mind. The alternate biography gives the present character a reason to want more. It says you are capable of that life. You simply did not take the turn when it appeared. The truth may be more complex. Maybe the turn was not clear. Maybe you did not have the resources then. But imagination does not care about the fairness of real conditions. Regret grows from these imagined lives. You hold the feeling that you abandoned a version of yourself. The memory of the possible becomes a ghost. You see it at night when the rest of your mind is quiet. It asks whether you have settled too soon. Yet imagination also gives you hope. The alternate biography shows that you have untested potential. It reminds you that the story is not finished. You can still take a class, move to a new place, or express hidden parts of yourself. The unreal life encourages you to revise the real one. Even small decisions create imagined tracks. If you had taken a different road to work, you might have avoided traffic or seen a friend. If you had answered a phone call instead of ignoring it, a connection might have changed your day. Each tiny alternate moment builds a shadow path. The mind stores them in quiet corners. They shape how you understand the present. You do not only remember what happened, you remember what almost happened. You remember what might have happened. Your past includes versions of events your body never lived. The biography you carry includes chapters written only by imagination. Your identity forms from more than facts. It forms from the tension between reality and possibility. The memory of could have been stays with you because part of you believes those versions still exist somewhere inside. Choice sounds like a gift. You want options. You want control. You want to shape your own path. But when choices multiply too much, the gift becomes heavy. Decisions begin to drain energy instead of inspiring action. You look at the possibilities and feel tired. Freedom loses its excitement. It starts to feel like a responsibility you did not ask for. Imagine standing in a grocery store aisle that stretches longer than a school hallway. Shelves hold dozens of cereals. Every box offers something different: low sugar, high fiber, extra vitamins. The bright colors compete for attention. You pick one up, read the label, put it back. You do the same with others. The more you compare, the more overwhelmed you feel. You fear picking wrong. You worry that another choice might be healthier or cheaper or taste better. When you finally choose, you walk away strained instead of satisfied. That reaction has a name: choice overload. When the brain must choose between too many options, it struggles. The mental energy used to compare and predict outcomes leaves you with less energy to enjoy what you picked. You may feel regret immediately after deciding, or you may replay the decision in your head later, wondering if you should have chosen differently. Choice overload happens not only in stores, it happens with entertainment. A person opens a streaming app after a long day. Hundreds of shows and movies appear. They scroll, they watch previews, they hesitate. Every decision has a trade-off. The scrolling continues until the person feels exhausted. They settle on something familiar because it feels safe. They could have watched it earlier, but the pressure to choose the best turned the freedom into a burden. Freedom becomes stressful when perfection hides behind every option. You believe somewhere in the list is the perfect choice. You do not want to miss it. That belief adds pressure. If you choose quickly, you fear you acted without enough thought. If you choose slowly, you lose time and patience. Either way, the choice cuts into your well-being. This pattern affects bigger parts of life too. A teenager hears they can be anything they want: an engineer, a painter, a doctor, a traveler. The promise sounds empowering, but it also feels overwhelming. How do they decide? They worry that one choice will define their future forever. They fear they will close the wrong door. The freedom becomes a weight they carry into adulthood. Relationships can feel the same pressure. With dating apps, a single swipe reveals hundreds of potential partners. You may meet someone kind and compatible, yet you wonder if someone better waits one swipe away. The abundance of choice keeps you from settling into connection. You become a collector of options instead of a builder of commitment. The freedom steals stability. Even goals and hobbies can cause fatigue. Someone wants to get in shape. The world offers countless paths: running, cycling, yoga, weightlifting, dance, swimming. They try to pick the best starting point. The process of choosing delays the start. They spend more time planning than acting. The first step becomes too heavy to lift. Choice fatigue often grows stronger when decisions carry identity. If you believe a choice defines who you are, the stakes feel higher. When you pick what to wear, what to post online, what career to pursue, or what group to join, you think the world will judge the outcome. You hesitate. You wonder which version of yourself will emerge from the decision. The fear of showing the wrong version makes you freeze. People who face many choices each day may become numb. They say, "I don't care," not because they lack opinion, but because they lack energy. They retreat into default habits: the same food, the same music, the same routine. These defaults feel like relief. Predictability gives the mind rest. But too much predictability turns life flat. Marketers know this. They try to reduce choice in small ways. Fast food restaurants show pictures of popular items. Online stores highlight what others bought. These shortcuts feel like guidance. They let the brain relax. When someone else seems to choose for you, you feel less stress. At the same time, you lose a bit of autonomy. You accept limits to escape the fatigue of freedom. You also see choice fatigue in social life. A person receives many invitations, events, group chats, meetups. They feel pressure to say yes, so they do not miss out. But too many yeses stretch them thin. When they decline, they worry they are losing connection. Every decision takes effort. They end up feeling alone, even when surrounded by options. The paradox appears in technology as well. You have thousands of songs in your pocket, yet you often listen to the same few repeatedly. The brain tries to simplify. Familiarity feels easier than endless choices. You tell yourself you can listen to anything, but the weight of that freedom pushes you back to what you know. The brain is not built to compare unlimited options. It evolved to make fast decisions in a world where choices were fewer. Which path to take, which food to eat, whom to trust. The modern world demands constant evaluation. Every notification, every product, every screen asks for your attention. You become a decision maker for tasks that once required none. When freedom forgets how to feel like freedom, the reaction is to escape choice. Some people adopt routines to reduce decision-making. They wear similar clothes each day. They keep meals simple. They protect their energy for bigger decisions. This kind of structure can feel like relief instead of restriction. It gives choice back its meaning by using it less often. Sometimes the best decision is to narrow the field. Choose one show without scrolling. Try one hobby without comparing. Pick a goal and stick with it long enough to feel progress. Freedom becomes lighter when you stop looking for the perfect option and learn to live inside the one you chose. Choice gives power, but power needs boundaries to be useful. When everything is possible, nothing feels clear. The brain tires, the heart grows unsure, the open road looks endless, and you stand still at the starting line. You often believe your choices come from your own wants. You think you pick your clothes, your hobbies, your beliefs, and your plans because they reflect who you are. But there is a second influence standing close by. It watches how others act and adjusts you to match. It works quietly. It does not introduce itself. Social pressure acts like a mirror that answers for you before you speak. Imagine a teenager standing in front of their closet. They choose an outfit for school, but not by asking, "What do I like?" Instead, they ask, "What will everyone think?" The decision changes based on how their friends dress or what they said yesterday. They do not feel forced. They feel guided. The mirror of others' expectations shapes the choice. This happens even in small interactions. A person sees a group laughing about a movie. They have not seen the movie. They nod anyway. They pretend to share the opinion to avoid feeling left out. The truth inside stays quiet. The fear of standing apart speaks louder. The mirror answers for them to keep them safe in the group. Humans evolved to belong. In ancient times, being accepted by others meant survival. Being cast out meant danger. That instinct has not disappeared. You still feel a quick pulse in your stomach when someone frowns at your idea. You feel relief when others approve. You do not choose to react this way. The nervous system reacts for you. Social norms shape everyday choices. A person may want to quit a job and travel. But when they hear comments like, "That's irresponsible," they rethink the plan. They feel the weight of judgment. Responsibility becomes defined by what others expect, not by what feels meaningful. The mirror tells them to stay where life looks normal. Belonging gives comfort, yet belonging can also narrow identity. Someone who loves a different kind of music might hide that love to fit in. Someone who feels uncertain about a tradition might join anyway to avoid questions. The true desire becomes smaller each time the mirror takes over. Over time, the person forgets the original desire was there at all. Consider a group of friends choosing a restaurant. One person wants something different but says nothing. They do not want to hold the group back. They accept a meal they do not enjoy because silence feels easier than resistance. This pattern happens across many decisions. The person becomes known as flexible or easygoing. Inside, they may feel invisible. Technology adds a stronger mirror. On social media, you share a photo and wait for reactions. Likes and comments provide tiny rewards. The brain releases dopamine, reinforcing the behavior. Next time you post what you think will earn approval, the platform becomes a scoreboard for social acceptance. Your choices shift toward what gains attention. The mirror is no longer a single face, but a crowd. People also match opinions to their group. If everyone around you supports a certain idea, you are likely to adopt it. This is called conformity. It can protect relationships, but it can also silence curiosity. You may ignore information that does not fit the group's view, because disagreement risks conflict. You tell yourself you agree because it feels easier than standing alone in disagreement. Peer pressure does not always look like pressure. It can look like advice. It can sound kind. You should try this career. You should behave more confidently. You should like this person. The suggestions seem harmless, but when you follow them, you shape your life around someone else's map. Later, you may wonder if you ever chose for yourself. Think about fashion trends. A person may claim they dress a certain way because they like the style, but what they like often depends on what is popular. When a trend fades, the desire fades. The mirror moves, and the person moves with it. Their sense of taste becomes a reflection rather than a creation. Social pressure also appears when you stay silent. In a meeting, someone says something you disagree with. You feel a spark of objection. Then you look around. Others seem to accept the point. You swallow the words. The silence protects you from standing apart, yet holding back shifts your self-image. You see yourself as less bold, less honest. The mirror teaches caution, even when truth matters. Even success gets shaped by social pressure. Someone may push for achievements because they fear being viewed as average. They set goals that look good to others, not ones that feel meaningful inside. When they reach those goals, the celebration feels hollow. The applause came for a version of them that never felt real. You also experience the opposite effect. When others expect little from you, you may lower your own expectations. Doubt becomes part of identity. The mirror tells you to shrink. Breaking out of that shape requires seeing yourself without the mirror, which is not easy. Social comparison builds more pressure. You look at peers and measure your career, relationship, or progress. Even if your life satisfies you, the comparison can make you feel behind. You make decisions to close the gap. Those decisions often do not match your personal priorities. They match what you think others admire. The mirror can change with context. A person who feels shy at work might feel bold with close friends. Their behavior shifts based on what approval they expect. The self becomes fluid, shaped by the environment's reflection. You may not know which version of you is most true, because each version responds to different social rules. Sometimes the mirror protects. It helps you learn social cues. It helps you understand feelings in others. It helps you avoid conflict when conflict would harm relationships. But when the mirror replaces your inner voice, you lose clarity. You forget what you want. You live through reflected expectations instead of lived conviction. Small acts of self-expression can weaken the mirror's hold. Saying you do not enjoy a popular trend, choosing a path that only you understand, sharing an honest opinion. These acts do not require rebellion. They require awareness. When you notice who answers the question, "What do I want?" you begin to separate your voice from the crowd's. The mirror does not disappear. It will always stand nearby. But awareness lets you decide when to listen and when to choose without its reflection guiding your hand. Saying no feels like freedom. When you refuse an expectation or a rule, you feel like you are taking control. You push back against what others want from you. You claim your own path. Rebellion looks like proof that you decide for yourself. But sometimes a refusal follows a pattern shaped by the same forces that shaped obedience. The rebellion may be pre-written, built from habits, fear, identity, or culture. You feel like you are breaking free while still acting inside a script you did not choose. Imagine a teenager told by their parents to avoid a certain group of friends. The warning triggers the opposite action. The teen spends more time with the group to prove independence. It looks like rebellion, but the behavior reacts directly to the rule. The decision came not from true desire, but from the urge to resist. The parent's command still controls the outcome. The teen acts like a puppet who pulls away from the hand but stays attached to the string. People often define identity through contrast. Someone might say, "I'm not like them." They reject what others enjoy to show individuality. But if everyone in their social circle does the same thing, the rebellion becomes its own norm. A friend group may pride itself on being outsiders. They dress differently from others. They listen to different music. They claim to resist trends. Yet within their own circle, they follow strict unspoken rules. The refusal becomes uniform. The outsider identity becomes a new inside. Think of someone who refuses a promotion at work. They say they do not want to get trapped in corporate life. They value freedom. But another part of the story might involve fear of failure, fear of responsibility, or fear of change. The refusal feels brave, but the motivation comes from discomfort. The person does not choose a new direction with clarity. They walk away from pressure without choosing where to go next. The rebellion hides anxiety behind a proud pose. Marketing understands this pattern well. Companies sell rebellion as a product. Clothing and technology brands promise uniqueness and independence. Their ads show people fighting against ordinary life by buying something new. You think you are resisting conformity, but you are following a trend designed to look like resistance. The script shifts form, not function. Some people rebel against rules set by society. They break norms because norms feel like chains. But the reaction still depends on the norms. If society values stability, rebellion might value chaos. If society values restraint, rebellion might value indulgence. The act opposes the rule, yet remains defined by it. It does not come from a neutral place. It grows from the same soil. Even personal habits can follow this flipped script. Someone who hears advice may do the opposite just because they dislike being told what to do. They avoid reading a certain book after everyone recommends it. They avoid trying a healthy lifestyle because it sounds like a trend. They call it choice, but the choice depends on the recommendation. Without the advice, the refusal would not exist. Consider a child who refuses to eat vegetables. A child does not dislike the taste as much as they dislike the pressure. The refusal gains its power from the adult's insistence. If the adult stops pushing, the rebellion might stop too. The script changes when the pressure shifts. Artists sometimes build careers on rejecting tradition. They break rules of form and style. They embrace shock or discomfort as a statement. But even this path can become predictable. The audience begins to expect the unexpected. The rebellion becomes a brand. The script of breaking rules becomes a rule itself. Psychologists describe this behavior as reactance. When people sense a threat to their freedom, they resist. The resistance feels self-directed, yet it comes from a trigger outside the self. The reaction does not choose a direction. It only pushes against the push. Without something to refuse, it has no target. A need to differentiate can come from insecurity. If someone feels uncertain about who they are, rebellion becomes a tool for self-definition. Saying no gives shape to the self when the self feels unclear. But this shape depends on what is being refused. Identity becomes a mirror reflecting the opposite of expectations. Sometimes rebellion protects what you care about. If someone pressures you to give up a passion, refusing keeps that passion alive. But even then, the pressure shapes the behavior. You cling tighter, not only because you love something, but also because someone tried to take it away. The defense responds to the threat. Rebellion can also follow family patterns. A parent who lived recklessly might raise a child who values caution. The child defines themselves as the opposite. Their refusal becomes a response to someone else's story. Another child might rebel the same way the parent once did, thinking they are forging a new path. They repeat the script without noticing. Even silence can be rebellion. A person may refuse to argue because arguing would give the other person power. They walk away during conflict. They call this strength. But the action still depends on the other person's behavior. The script hides itself inside the retreat. Rebellion sometimes masquerades as authenticity. You say you are being true to yourself by rejecting a request. But if you always reject what others expect, the pattern drives you more than desire does. You remain predictable in your refusal. The moment rebellion becomes habit, it stops being free. It becomes a reflex, a script, a pattern triggered by the world instead of chosen by the self. True freedom might require questioning both the yes and the no. It might mean choosing a direction not because someone pushed you there or pushed you away from somewhere else, but because it reflects what you value when no one is watching. Most thoughts seem to appear on their own. They arrive without permission. You may think of a memory, a plan, or a fear before you realize what is happening. The mind works behind the scenes. But once you turn your attention inward and start watching your thoughts, they shift. The act of observing changes what the mind does. It is like a spotlight that makes the scene behave differently the moment it shines on it. In physics, the observer effect describes how measuring a particle changes its behavior. The particle acts one way when unobserved and another way when observed. The brain works with a similar pattern. A thought that feels automatic when ignored becomes deliberate when noticed. The thought changes to match the fact that you are paying attention. Imagine you feel angry and start to speak in frustration. If you are not aware of your thoughts, the words spill out fast. But if you pause and watch the anger for a moment, the feeling changes. You might soften the tone or decide to stay silent. The anger did not vanish. It changed form because the observer stepped in. The observer is also part of the mind, yet it acts like a separate presence, one that evaluates and adjusts. When you observe your own thinking, you interrupt the first impulses. You give the brain a moment to consider alternatives. That moment can change outcomes in ways that feel like growth. A person trying to break a habit might notice the urge rising. Watching the urge can weaken it. The thought, "I want a cigarette," becomes, "I notice I want a cigarette." The shift seems small. In practice, it changes behavior. Self-awareness shapes identity. Someone who feels anxious might label every fast heartbeat as panic. But if they observe the sensation before reacting, they may reinterpret it as excitement or alertness. The label changes how the emotion moves. Watching the thought changes the thought. The mind influences itself. Yet observation does not always help. Sometimes watching a thought gives it more power. A person trying not to think of a mistake may focus on it even more. The thought grows louder. The mind becomes a loop. You tell yourself to move on, but the effort to control thought keeps the thought in place. By observing too closely, you feed the thought you hope to silence. Creative work shows the same paradox. When ideas flow freely, you do not watch them closely. You let them run. But the moment you judge them as they arrive, the flow slows. The observer interrupts the process that creates the ideas. You think more and produce less. The watchful part of the mind tries to improve the work but often stops it instead. Consider a simple task like walking. You do not think about how you move your legs. The steps feel natural. But if someone tells you to observe your stride and correct it, you might stumble. The act of observing disrupts what the body and mind learn to do without attention. Many actions, typing, driving, playing an instrument, rely on the hidden systems beneath awareness. When you observe too much, you interrupt mastery. Social behavior follows this pattern as well. When no one watches, you act with ease. But when you think others are observing, you change how you speak, walk, or laugh. You adjust to how you think you look. You try to manage impressions. The observer in your mind tries to protect you from judgment. The simple person you were becomes a person shaped by imagined eyes. Now turn that observation inward. When you focus on how you think or what you feel, you sometimes perform for yourself. You want to see confidence, so you act confident. You want to see strength, So you push down anything that looks like weakness. Observation becomes performance. The watcher becomes a director. The mind responds as if it has an audience. Mindfulness practices suggest a different approach. They teach you to observe thoughts without reacting. You notice a worry and let it pass. You notice a desire and let it fade. You do not try to change the thought. You let the thought be what it is. The paradox remains. The thought behaves differently because you observed it. But instead of pushing, the observation removes fuel. The thought loses its grip. Monitoring can also make decisions harder. If you think too much about choosing, the choice feels heavier. You analyze until you feel stuck. The observer slows the process that normally moves through instinct. People sometimes choose better when they stop focusing on the decision. They let the deeper part of the mind guide the action. Memory changes when observed too. If you replay a memory often, you reshape it. Each observation edits the story. The past shifts to match your current understanding. The observer rewrites history without meaning to. The memory becomes a version modified by attention. Even confidence follows this rule. When you do something well without thinking, you feel natural pride. But if you watch your performance carefully, you may judge it harshly. You see flaws and miss strengths. The observer can turn skill into anxiety. There is power in knowing your own mind. That awareness helps you pause before acting, helps you grow, and helps you change habits. But complete self-monitoring can become a trap. You cannot live a full life while trying to evaluate every moment of thought. The mind must act, sometimes without watching itself. The observer's paradox reminds you that the self is not just one thing. There is the thinker and the watcher. When you pay attention, the watcher takes control. When you relax, the thinker takes the lead. Knowing when to observe and when to let the mind run is part of understanding who you are.